Hey everyone, this is Frederick Jones, founder and publisher of Saturday AM, and this is our 2020 March Art Madness Round 1 review show. We are really excited for a chance to to present to you guys this very first round of our fifth annual, very tough global art tournament. We bring creators from all around the world to compete to see who can do the best fan art. They're competing for some pretty big prizes, and this year we're really honored because we've actually got a great team built around this. We've got some amazing new artists who are debuting for the first time in the tournament. Of course, we have our own amazing staff and creators who will be some of them you'll be meeting today on the in this live review. But more importantly, we've got some amazing partners who have helped us make this tournament one of our biggest and one of our best. I want to talk very quickly about them. Now, if you guys are familiar with Spectrum Noir, you guys know that we have done some things with Spectrum Noir this year and the end of last year. They are the makers of some really amazing art markers, alcohol-based art markers. And so they have been just an amazing partner with Saturday M this year. We've had some great partners in previous years, including Plask and Illo Sketchbooks and Chameleon art markers. But Spectrum Noir has truly been an amazing partner. We're really excited to have a chance to work with both the US division as well as the UK division, which is called Crafter's Companion. Likewise, we have the fantastic support of Clip Studio Paint. If you guys are not familiar with them, they are the makers of course, one of the best software that you can use to make your own comics and your own manga. We did a video with them. Whyt Manga and Jay Oden participated with it, and it was very well received. Many of you loved it, and we're going to be doing some more stuff with them in the near future. But in the case of both of these incredible companies, we hope that you all will, throughout this show, learn more about them. And if you are intrigued to get the best tools that you can use to create your own illustrations for a future March Art Madness competition or for your own comic book endeavors, we hope that you will check out either for traditional products, Spectrum Noir, or for digital software products, Clip Studio Paint. And with that, let's talk about one other thing I want to bring up, which is the coronavirus. You all know by now that this is just a tremendously devastating event that is happening around the world, and it has truly changed the lives of everyone who has had to encounter it. Our hearts go out to those who've been impacted the worst. And the fact of the matter is that this will continue to be a struggle for many of us to deal with. Many of you can't go outside for long periods of time, depending on where you live at, or if you go into certain venues, they restrict how long you can stay in there. You're not able to interact with some of your loved ones. And what I would say to that, and I hope that everyone please takes stock of the fact that as someone who's 46 years old, I have never in my lifetime seen anything like this. I've lived a pretty decent life. I've seen the Challenger explosion with the NASA space shuttle. I've seen the AIDS epidemic rise. I've seen gas lines in the late 70s when OPEC did what they did. I've seen Columbine, where two young men assassinated several people, which has unfortunately continued to happen in the United States. We've seen all sorts of events that have shocked life as we know it, but this is probably the biggest test to mankind that we've seen in some time, given how much we live in a connected world. So I would truly hope that many of you will wash your hands, continue to be vigilant towards your hygiene, make sure that you're practicing social distancing, and remembering that 54% of the individuals in the state of New York who are between the ages of 18 and 49 are being hospitalized because of the COVID-19 virus, meaning that you are not immune to it because you are younger. Likewise, if you have older people in your family, be they in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and of course in their 70s or older, then they become more impacted by the COVID-19 virus should they get it. So it's imperative of all of us to watch out for each other, to make sure that we're doing our part to maintain our hygiene, to maintain our safety, and to make sure that we don't impact anyone else in our community's safety, certainly not friends and family. Wash your hands, use antiseptic gel, clean off your devices like smartphones, tablets, drawing tablets, and so on. And please make sure that you are being on the lookout to make sure that you are not carrying any sort of illness to other people, practicing safe distance where you can. So with that being said, we're going to begin today's live stream. I'm really honored that we have an amazing group of people here helping us with this first round. I'm going to introduce them to you now, and I hope that they will say hello. First up, we have Jackie Rindy, who is, I'm saying that right, is it Jackie?
Yeah, Jackie Rindy, you got it.
All right. So Jackie handles our social media. She is just one of the most positive people I've ever met. Extremely lovely person to get to know, and I think that and works extremely hard. Jackie is extremely focused on trying to do the best job that she can, and she loves art, which is at a certain point in this industry, you get very cynical towards the people who have a oversized view of their own artistic abilities. But Jackie's one of the true fans of great art and of artists in general. And so it's a real honor to have Jackie here. In fact, Jackie's husband's helping us do this live chat. So if anything goes wrong, blame Jonathan. Hello, Jackie.
Hi. I hope everyone's doing well.
Awesome. All right. We also have Morganne Walker. You all know her from previous year. We actually discovered her in an event very similar to this, which was Summer of Manga. We actually ran her first story for our Summer of Manga back in 2017. I believe it was 2017. Morganne is just one of the sweetest people you'll meet as well. She's focused. She's incredibly intelligent, talented. She created the series Soul Beat, which is one of our core titles. And we're happy to have Morganne with us here this evening. How are you doing, Morganne?
Thank you for the introduction. I'm doing great. Happy to be here. As always, I feel like a true veteran doing this again for, I think, the third year now.
Morganne, if you can you tell them what superhero nickname you have?
It's Flash, isn't it? Or Speedy?
Flash. It's Flash. And tell them why you're called Flash, Morganne.
Because I'm the opposite of Flash. Trying to think of something more clever to say, but yeah, that's pretty much it. It's the opposite.
For people who follow the Flash superhero from DC Comics, he actually has a villain that no one knows about because he was one of the first characters to appear in the Flash comics back in the 1930s, or maybe the 50s. Either way, he is called the Turtle. And because no one knows a turtle, I can't use a turtle as a joke with Morganne. Jay Oden, who you see on the screen here with the wash your hands image, Jay Oden is the fastest artist we've ever had at Saturday. We've had some fast artists, but Jay is ultra fast. Morganne is the opposite of Jay, but Morganne's lovely. She's an amazing artist. If you've seen Soul Beat, you know how amazing Morganne is as an artist. So we're happy to have Morganne. And of course, our final guest tonight is one of our true stars within the company, Whyt Manga. You guys know him from his YouTube channel. You know him from his best-selling property with Saturday M called Apple Black, and of course, the deep cut folks of you know that he also does a title with the Saturday PM called Bakasi. Mr. Whyt Manga, how you doing today, Whyt?
I'm doing great. I feel so happy to be here. Happy to join the crew, and hopefully we have a blast looking through all the entries.
Fantastic. Yeah, and we certainly hope we can. Now, I will say three quick things for people to know as we get ready to get started. First and foremost, as you guys who've been following us for a while know, we try to do the best job we can with these presentations, but they inevitably are awkward. We're not a gigantic company. We continue to grow, but we're not giant. So there may be some technical gaffes here and there, and we hope that you guys will be kind enough to not ring us over the head about it. We're trying to do the best job we can, considering that everyone is not in the same location. Number two is the fact that for those of you who participated this year for 2020, and those of you who participated in 2019, we of course have a brand new mobile app. We'll be talking about it a little bit later, but we will be making sure that every individual, certainly some of the finalists from last year of the 2019 crew, who we had some discrepancy with some of the prizes, that they will get access to a full year of the app, as well as the 2020 participants this year will get full access to our mobile app. We'll be communicating that information shortly. There's a process to get that done, so please bear with us. I know some of you have been patient, some haven't, but either way, it does take a little bit of time because we develop our app through a third-party company, and things like coding it to get the right individuals in to make sure they have access to the things that they need to have access to takes a minute. So we're working to make that happen. But when we do, everyone from 2020 and the participants of 2019, some of the finalists at least, will have access to the app's $36 value. So we hope that people appreciate that. And then last but not least, we do have for the first time this year an alternate tournament. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. So if you are a participant for the alternates group, please understand we won't be showcasing your artwork today, but we will be discussing how that works and letting people know where they can go and vote to support the other group of amazing artists who are working with us this year on a specific tournament just for them. That has a separate prize package and is hosted on another website. So we will give more information about that shortly. So with that being said, let's get started. We're going to try to keep this brief, folks. We won't spend a lot of time on each entry as in past years. We want this to be a very quick show, but we will try to give you some insights as to what we thought about the art, and we will also vote on the artwork that we see today. So by the end of today's show, you will know where Morganne, Jackie, Whyt Manga, and myself vote. And keep in mind that our votes for every single matchup count for 15 points towards the individual artist's total, and that may determine whether or not they make it to round two. If you're new to March Art Madness, welcome. This tournament is based on a really simple idea. We want artists to compete against each other. This is not the Kumbaya art tournament of most companies. That's one of the reasons that the tournament is so popular. This is mano-a-mano slugfest over 5 rounds, aka weeks. So this is a true test of an artist's stability, determination, talent, and organization. There's simply nothing else that anyone does that quite captures what it's like to be a comic book artist than March Art Madness. If you love to create art, you got to get your artwork in on time. If you are someone who needs a lot of time to create artwork in the real world of comic book art and deadlines and so forth, you may only have a couple of days. This tournament produces a brand new piece of artwork from the winning creator every single week on time. Furthermore, you may not get to draw what you want to draw. Every week, the themes change. You'll be drawing different things every single week. So if you're watching a tournament this year and you're going to follow along, or you're watching the previous years, which we have on our YouTube channel, notify our fan base first as to future contests and art tournaments that can help you prepare for next year's March Art Madness tournament. With that being said, let's begin with the very first group. That will be Apple Black. And we're going to be discussing the artwork that was generated within this group. So if you guys look here, you'll be able to see that we've got a gorgeous piece of artwork of Sano. Whyt, do you know who did this artwork?
Yes, my guess is Rashad.
It is Rashad, yes. Beautiful piece of artwork. I got to say, really, really great piece of artwork. Great Sano. This week's theme for Team Apple Black was comics. And in this case, it's the first time we've ever done this. It was supervillain from DC versus a supervillain from Marvel. So they could choose any supervillain they wanted to, and they got to pit them against each other. And so, of course, their creativity comes through as they match supervillains against one another. Now, our very first contest is between, I think it's, who's it? I think it's JRG Art versus Oblivious 334. So I'm going to pull up JR Vega Art. Sorry, JR Vega Art. We'll see his artwork first, and we will discuss it. So I would like to start with Whyt. What are your thoughts on this piece?
I thought it was, very eventful. I could tell that the artist was really trying to go all out, maybe do some things that are not in their comfort zone. But I really like the idea. I think this is supposed to be, and hopefully I'm getting it right, is Thanos versus maybe Reverse Flash, and have Reverse Flash wearing the gauntlet, the Infinity Gauntlet. So I like the effort here with the lighting, trying to make things a little eventful. It might be too chaotic in some places, too blurry, not as clear, but I do appreciate a lot of the effort put into it. So good piece. And I'm sure I can tell that the artist really put in work.
Agreed. And so of course, they and we'll go through each person and give their thoughts on each one of these. but the challenger for this artist was Oblivious 334. And what did you make of Oblivious 334's artwork?
Also really good. You have, I think this creator probably has more experience trying to do things out of their comfort zone. And so you see the characters we get to see more character bodies, and it's more difficult because you have to deal with anatomy and things of that nature. So I could tell there was also a lot of effort here. We have Harley Quinn kind of falling with Mystique with a gun. So also a lot is going on. Could be a little chaotic as well with the background, but I could tell what's going on, trying to do like the blurs, speed blurs. So like they're really in motion. So he really, just like the first one, tried to go all out and do the best he could. So most of these, especially this year, have like a lot of entries that are really hard to pick. And I think this is one of them. So I really like this piece. I really like the coloring, character choices. Overall, a fun piece.
Yeah. So so everyone understands, what we're going to do is we're going to have one person discuss a matchup. So that way, and then everyone will give their thoughts in terms of their votes at the end of the show. This will help us get through these entries pretty quickly. So Whyt's going to handle this first matchup. You just heard his thoughts on it. Let me just say two quick notes. Number one, I thought this was a really good challenge, precisely for the reasons Whyt mentioned, but I'll go just a step further. Both of them are doing something really difficult, and whether or not they pull it off perfectly, I think is a question. But what's not a question is that both of them attempt to do something really difficult. And I think that always is something that in this tournament really matters. This scenario here, you've got two just fantastic characters. They're falling as they're fighting one another. So being able to capture, the anatomy, being able to capture the velocity and so forth is really evident here in the Oblivious piece. Oblivious, by the way, you all may have seen him. He won our holiday art contest, I think it was $650 worth of art supplies, courtesy of Spectrum Noir. So really talented artist in his own right. The image from J.R. Vega art, me being a DC Comics guy, I love the Reverse Flash, as I call him, the anti-Morgan. But what I do love about the image, of course, is it is very visceral. One of the challenges to the images, though, is that, again, he chose to do something really unique here, where he really zeroed in on the action so you could get a close-up of the Infinity Gauntlet and Reverse Flash. Of course, by setting it from this perspective, it makes it difficult to see exactly what he did to Thanos. So you're going to see, I think, in this first round, in this first team of Apple Black, some things I noticed, which were, it all comes down to how they chose to frame the action. I think all the images, I think, are really good, but I think what's going to make the difference is how they chose to frame it. Did they frame it in a way where they told the story completely, or did they frame it in a way to where you still have more questions than answers? And I don't mean questions as in, why are they fighting? But questions as in, wait, what are they doing to each other and how's it occurring? So keep that in mind as we make our votes at the very end. But I think two really great images. I couldn't agree more. All right, next up, we're going to be going to 40 Fingers artwork, and I'm going to be calling on Jackie for this one. You ready, Jackie?
Yep, I'm good to go.
All right. So 40 Fingers is here, and so 40 Fingers is here, and they had this Galactus piece versus Darkseid. I'd like you to give your thoughts on this, and let me know what you think.
Yeah, so I really think this is an interesting piece. You have Darkseid kind of constricting Galactus with his power. I really like the effects coming out of Darkseid. I believe it's coming from his eyes. I could be wrong, but I also really like how they drew Galactus. They made Galactus kind of the center point of the whole picture, and they obviously made him really big, so he's like the main focus. But there's an interesting storyline going on there, and I think it's a really good battle matchup. So they did a very good job drawing all the details. I think the colors are fantastic. I can't really see a whole lot in the background, but you could tell that it's in outer space. But kudos to the artists. They did a fantastic job for this one.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is one, and folks are going to be. There always are some of these that didn't have competitors. We will see that, unfortunately, today a few times. The artist of this one, I'm trying to find out who the artist was. It was oh, I don't know. Let's see here. Is that right? Sorry, let me just double check, make sure I got that right. Yeah, I think that's right. I can't speak to it, but I think that this was one where there was no artists who got their work in. I remember there was one kid was anyway. I can't recall. I'm sorry. There's one kid. I think it was you remember that Jack? It was Tyronius or something like that. You remember the kid Tyronius? I think his name was
Tyson for free.
No, it was another one named Tyrone. I can't recall. I'll find it. It's probably in another group, but they had mislabeled their work, and I remember it was. I thought I had updated it, so I'm pretty sure it's another group. But either way, this is Galactus, a big Marvel Comics character. He hasn't appeared, at least not in this format, in a Marvel movie yet. But the rumors are that he'll appear in Phase 4 at some point. And then Darkseid, of course, from DC Comics, one of the great villains. He was Thanos before Thanos was Thanos. And those are his Omega beams, which come from his eyes. I think this is a really cool piece. I mean, this is exactly what it would look like. Galactus is the size of a couple of planets, and Darkseid, of course, is bigger than your average human. And so I just love how this worked. So this is really cool piece. I love the coloring on this as well. I think this is just a really, really effective image. Not bad at all. I think the hats off to 40 Fingers. Again, would love to have seen the Challenger, but I think this is one hell of a worthy piece, regardless of the Challenger or not. Okay, so we're going to move on from here. Then our next matchup is going to be. Let me see here. Our next matchup is Quick Draw Chev. This is one of my favorite pieces. And they are up against JMV091789. Gotta love these names. I'm gonna call on Morgan for this one. Morgan, are you there?
I am here.
So what do you make of this piece, Morgan?
So I want to reiterate to everyone listening or watching that I don't know very much about Marvel or DC Comics, so if I say something about a character wrong, I apologize. No, I think artistically this was really impressive. The amount of, as someone who puts a lot of detail into their artwork, I think it's really impressive the restraint that they had, because sometimes you can go overboard, but they were very selective about where they put lines to show highlights on characters and to show depth, even with all the action and the detail that's going on here. I also like a good narrative. The fact that you've got these DC Marvel superheroes that are playing as these villains in an arcade format, I think was a nice touch. The color, I think I understood why they did that, was to kind of show, okay, it's one person's playing as a blue character, person's playing as red, but I think having the titles at the top, the fact you've got color with the black and white, that tends to distract a little bit from the image, but otherwise I think, there was a lot of competency involved with putting together these characters and the details that are here.
Totally agree. Let me just say this right now, because I know we have a lot of young fans. Of course, I'm 46 years old, so I'm very old. If you get a chance, folks, you must go read about, Google, learn about Arthur Adams. He is an amazing artist. He's one of the superstar comic artists before really superstar artists were a thing, the way they are today for Marvel and DC Comics back in the mid 80s or so. Art Adams, go look up Art Adams. When I saw this image, I thought, oh my God, this is Art Adams. It's gorgeous. And I don't mean that I don't mean to say that with the derision. I don't think Quick Draw Chev was copying Art Adams, but that excellent line use, that really good toning of black and white, just the boldness of the characters, Darkseid and Thanos, and then of course, if you can make out at the bottom, you got Captain America versus Superman. This is such good stuff. I really, really love this piece. And so the color didn't bother me because I'm used to seeing Arthur Adams' work, which is gorgeous in color, but it's equally gorgeous in black and white. This really struck me in that end. Of course, JMV 091789 was not to be outdone. he has what I think is one of the more clever combination of characters, which is Joker and Loki. What did you make of this?
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought that was a good matchup as well. I definitely, a lot of the perspective that's going on with the characters and seeing their full bodies in action, I think helps a lot of people cut off some of their images. But in this case, talking about framing, we see a lot of action going on between these two characters, which is great. I think some of the coloring, there is some attempt to do some shading, but maybe it could have had some more depth to really kind of sell the difference between the background and foreground. It feels a little bit flat. There's some proportion issues, and the background is maybe not the strongest part of this image, but otherwise I really do like the character, the kind of mood, or the the emotions that are coming out of the two characters. They really captured those characters very well.
Yeah, to me, this is one of the more difficult matchups in the entire tournament, because I think Quick Draw Chev, as I just indicated, did some really brilliant stuff in it. I think in this case, like for example, you were somewhat critical, not heavily, at not having more color in that work, but in this one, you were critical of some of the the background and so forth. And I'm the exact opposite. I think that like not having color in the other one, I think worked for that piece. And then on this one, I think this is one of the more well put together. I think the perspective here rocks. You've got a story being told here completely. Joker's got Loki on the ground. He's choking him. You can even see the detail in the socks. You can see the sole of his shoes. He's got the maniacal pose. His facial expression is fantastic. You got Loki coming behind him in a warp thing that we know Loki does. You've got a background back there. And again, maybe some people, can do a better background, but we're going to see a lot of artwork where there's no backgrounds. So I was really impressed with this piece. Again, we're going to see more Joker Lokis, but I thought this was a really good piece. I think this is a challenge, because the things that Quick Draw Chev didn't do in terms of color, JMV did do. And so I think that both of them are telling stories, which I think is important. But I think this one has a lot of merit to it, for sure. So I think these are two really good pieces, personally. All right, let's go to the next group here. We've got Whyt Manga versus Studio Hero. So this time I shake it up a little bit. I'll go to Jackie on this one. You ready, Jackie? Since you only had one person last time, Jackie.
Yeah, I'm ready. I think like Morgan, I won't recognize a couple of these characters, but I'll give my best.
No worries. I will tell you who's who. All right, so this first one, you recognize these characters?
Yeah, so I recognize Shazam, but I don't know who the superhero with the red and the purple costume is.
So that's so both of these are villains. That's the one on the left is Magneto from the X-Men. It's his traditional supervillain costume, and then the one on the right is the evil version of Shazam named Black Adam. So he's just like Shazam, except he's evil. He wears an all black costume. So there's the two of them going at it in what looks like an aerial battle. But what did you make of this piece?
I really liked how they're like fighting each other and they're flying. I think that's a really interesting perspective that the artist chose. I really like how they're like breaking through. It looks like a building, and you can see kind of like a lot of rubble, and then you can see the moon in the background. I think it's a really interesting piece. I do see a couple like anatomy issues, and maybe it's kind of tied in with like the proportions, because I know that perspective is a very difficult thing to accurately get on paper. But you could tell what they're doing. You could, everything kind of makes sense. But I think that's probably the thing I'd say is just the anatomy kind of throws me off a little bit. But I really like the coloring. I like the story, and I think this is a strong piece.
Yeah, so let me just say I had trouble with this because I didn't actually understand what was happening. So it looks like the moon is behind them, and that looks like the sky, like maybe it's nighttime, because I don't know where that black comes from. I mean, Black Adam his costume is black, but he doesn't control blackness. He doesn't he doesn't cause this miasma. You can see this sort of like miasma behind them, and I don't know where that's coming from. As you said, it seems like they're in the sky, and everything that we're seeing on the ground, at the bottom of them looks like it's on the ground. but then again, maybe it's not. Magneto's powers, of course, are to control metal. We see steel girders and so forth in parts of the image. Black Adam doesn't have any sort of powers like that. So I'm not quite sure what's happening. The story that they're fighting is clear. Where they are, how it relates to the scene and so forth, I'm not sure. So I will say I personally didn't quite understand what was going on with it. Let's look at their competitor, which is Studio Hero. So I will admit, I don't know who this is. I think that's Black Adam again, but I'm not sure. What did you make of this?
Well, I think the big old monster on the end is Venom, and then this hero is
Oh, that makes sense.
yeah, this guy could be Adam. I'm not too sure. I think the lightning kind of blocks the design of his suit, so it kind of makes it a little hard to tell who he is. But I really like the concept of like Venom's kind of like black webs coming out of his body.
Mhm.
I can't tell if that's his brain kind of showing out, but I think it's really cool. Um, and I like how they're fighting each other. He's using like some kind of electricity against Venom. I also appreciate that kind of red background, makes it very dramatic. Um, and I'm trying to look at the detail here. I'm zooming into the image. Um, it looks like there's some kind of speckled spots in the image. Of course, that could just be the design that the artist wanted to go for. But it's a little bit different. The design of the one villain is different from how they colored the other villain. But I mean, it still works together as a whole image, and I think they did a good job.
Yeah, so that is Black Adam. Black Adam has electrical powers. If you ever saw the Shazam movie, he can like summon thunder and stuff. Black Adam does the same thing. So I didn't realize that was Venom, but you're right. That's Venom. That's Eddie Brock. He's got red hair, so you can see the red hair underneath as the symbiote kind of comes off of him. If I understand correctly, what I remember correctly, the symbiote it can't deal with sonics or like heavy like non-physical energy like that disrupts the symbiote or whatever. So it seems like if he's crackling the electricity and thunder and so forth, that's messing with the symbiote. So it's kind of like pulling off of Eddie's body as a host. So that's what it seems like. I could be mistaken. Studio Hero can certainly correct me, but I did like this image. I think it's a bit more dramatic. I think that the poses work well. So I think it's a really solid image. Okay, so next up, we've got the next matchup. I'll go to Whyt. This is the Battle of the H's. Hack Wolfen and Harakumi Art. So Hack Wolfen and Harakumi Art. So let me pull up the first one here. All right, what did you make of this?
I'm thinking as looking at it, Hack Wolfen, Hack over here, again, creators trying to get out of the comfort zone a little bit. I can see there's efforts to do some painting, and I think she did a decent job here. We can see Harley Quinn and Dr. Octopus in their old attire, like very old school attire. Some of the coloring might be, maybe a little too saturated in some places, but I definitely appreciate the effort. And then there are certain elements that are really good where she's trying to do some dynamic perspective and foreshortening with the characters and Dr. Octopus's arms, and then the effort in trying to put backgrounds and, things exploding in the background as well. So there was a lot of effort put in this, which I really appreciate and like. I always like when creators are trying to step out of the comfort zone, because that's when they learn a lot. So overall, the piece, I like certain elements that could definitely be improved on, but clear message, clear what's going on, very classic look to it. I like it.
Agreed. Being an old guy again, it did bring back memories, specifically because of how they were dressed. It kind of feels like like those old coloring books or like books for kids, and like you see it, because the image is kind of static, but there's still like this kind of old school energy to it with the painting and so forth. So I really dug it for what it is. Their competitor, Harakumi Art, has this piece. It's yet another Joker versus Loki piece. What'd you make of this?
I think this is another really good piece. Pretty clear what's going on with Joker and Loki. Very popular characters within their respective universes. Only those kind of bad guys that are actually pretty liked. So I can see why a lot of creators are actually doing this. I don't know if they planned it. Clear image, clear art. I like the coloring. I like the poses and the body proportions. Just overall artwork and the way everything's kind of put together. Some of the smoke to sell that atmosphere with the characters as well. Very ominous background. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening. The Joker looks, they're really selling the characters overall. So again, this is another strong piece. I think the strongest part of it is just some of the poses and the coloring overall. Nothing too crazy going on, but that's not always necessary. So definitely appreciate it. One of the better pieces, at least when it comes to rendering that we've seen today.
I couldn't agree with you more. Again, we saw another Joker image in Loki, and I really like that one because of the way it tells a story in a pretty complete way. I think with this one, it doesn't quite tell, as complete of a story. There's no background here and so forth, but I agree with you. The fog really works with it. I absolutely love the pose of the Joker. He's got a knife down there at the bottom. He's got that strange thing he's doing with his leg, which just fits the physicality of the Joker. I think both images capture the physicality of the Joker, which is key. I mean, there's some anatomy things that don't quite work with Loki, but at the same time, they really sell the Joker. And I think that's an impressive thing because, again, part of storytelling, as all of you guys know, is being able to communicate non-verbally, right? Like you don't have a speech bubble to communicate someone's being unhinged or someone being, kind of sociopathic. And I think just the loose way that they're presenting the Joker in both those illustrations is really great. So yeah, I really like this piece a lot as well. I think this is a cool piece. Okay, all right. Next up, we're gonna get to Artist Always. I'm gonna be going to Morgan for this one. So Morgan, you ready?
Yep.
All right. This is yet another Galactus piece. So some of the villains were very popular. We had some of the villains over and over again. This is Galactus. Unfortunately, she did not have a competitor. Again, I've got to double check all that, but as of right now, I didn't see that she had a competitor. So what did you make of this piece featuring Poison Ivy of all people against Galactus?
This is, I think artistically, this is one of my favorite pieces of the entire round so far. There's obviously some great rendering with the color. Line weights look good. I think the background, this is a more minimal choice, but I think that worked in this person's favor. There really weren't many negative things I had to say about it. I think it's an interesting matchup, like you said, with Poison Ivy. She's not a super popular character. Well, I mean, she's popular, but not super compared to some of the others. But I think that makes it interesting with her particular powers in this case, kind of similar to Darkseid in the earlier piece.
Yeah, I agree. I really love the setup of. I just love artistically what was presented here. I like the way that I like the choice of Poison Ivy. I like the fact that Artists Always really went into detail with the branches and the vines. I thought that was just a really good touch. I don't like the Galactus as much because, again, Galactus is one of those characters that really has not. He was originally created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, so he has that motif of him just as a big, bold character. I think the original image that we saw earlier in this round from 40 Fingers, I think captures the enormity of Galactus. Here, size-wise, he's big, but like that six-pack, that little thin six-pack, that's not the way I've envisioned Galactus. Again, people can render it however they want, but that's not the way I envision Galactus. Galactus is a really hardy, big, multiple planet-sized person, and seeing that second part of his body really kind of ruins it for me a little bit, because that's not the way I see Galactus. But there's no denying Artists Always really brought it with Poison Ivy as a character. The rendering of Poison Ivy is really well done, and the vines, the fact that she went to that much detail with the trees and the vines and so forth, is really inspired. I think it's a great. And to your point about the background, if you're not going to do a background, doing a background that's got like speed lines and just a really effective use of color is great. And this is a really good background. So, all right. So let's go back to Whyt. Whyt, we've got another matchup here. It's going to be Kitsune Ren Art versus Antonin M. Pekin, Pekin. I'm sure I'm pronouncing all of that incorrectly. So this is going to be Joker versus Kingpin. What do you make of this?
Another Joker. Overall, pretty good. The background, again, very subtle, blurry, probably easy to do because it was blurry, but I think it works. It allows us focus on the characters, and the characters really look like they fit in that environment as well. So overall, this piece is really, I really like it. Again, it's one of the better pieces in the whole tournament here of March Art Madness. Some of the line work has that sketchy vibe, but it also looks on purpose to a degree, so I appreciate it. I also like the choice of villains because they do feel like they could be in the same universe for the most part, at least. The way they've rendered these characters also look good. The way Joker is placed, and Kingpin kind of towering over him could be a little bigger, but again, this is like the creator's, the artist's version, which I think still works. I like that it's raining and, that's playing some kind of, you can see like the particles hitting the characters, like the droplets hitting the characters. So overall, I really like it. Coloring is some of the best so far. And pretty dark, very gangster filled. I could see this happening. So overall, I think the creator did a good job here.
I couldn't agree more. I think this is, again, like I said, I think a lot of people really like Joker, and their love of Joker really comes through. I think it's an inspired choice to have Kingpin. Again, I'm an old guy. There've been crossovers before. For those of you who follow American comic books, Batman has met Spider-Man. He's met Captain America. I've never seen Joker interact with. Batman's met Daredevil. I've never seen the interaction with Kingpin with Joker, and that seems so smart. I actually want to see that story. And like you said, the sketchiness of the art didn't bother me because the rain effect kind of amplifies it. It's meant to be kind of blurry, I think, at least. I really like this piece. I couldn't agree with you more. I thought this was, when I saw it, I kept thinking, wow, that's a really clever, good story being told, inspired choice of villains, and just a great depiction of it. I totally agree with you. Let's see. Next up is Anthony M. Parkin. I believe he's one of our first creators we've done from Brazil. So I was really excited to see this. This is Brainiac versus Venom. What do you make of this, Whyt?
Some of the rendering here is really, really good. Really selling that whole comic vibe as well. Pretty straightforward illustration, almost like a poster that you could see. Just a clear face-off, selling, basically following the rules to a T to a degree. Some of the, again, doing the speed lines in the background, I think is pretty good. Having that little split screen type thing, and with the Venom tongue overlap is nice. I'm not too fond of the versus. Maybe you didn't need it, but he still chose to put it. It's not really taking away that much. But when it comes to the rendering of the actual characters, again, I think is one of the strongest in the tournament so far. The coloring is not so much, but definitely still within the good, really good column. It could still be improved, but to be fair, a lot of everything could be. So overall, I like the piece, clear message, very popular villains. Another Venom, the first Brainiac, but overall I think it's really good. I think the artist really has some very nice, rendering skills, at least when it comes to inking. I like the teeth and the meticulous nature of Venom's teeth in there. So overall, another strong piece.
I couldn't agree with you more. I actually had my notes. I said this is one of the better inking jobs. I totally agree. One of the best inking jobs, because there's detail that was brought out by the inking, and we don't see that typically with a lot of creators. Typically, the details brought out in the color, or they just rendered it that way. But this is really good inking. The Brainiac 5 reminds me of Gary Frank, and this is not a criticism, but there's a Gary Frank story that featured Brainiac. It was adapted to one of the DC animated movies, Gary Frank. If you guys don't know who Gary Frank is, look him up. He's an amazing artist. He just came off a Doomsday Clock with Jeff Johns. He's really good artist. This reminds me of that. It seems very similar to the way that he rendered Brainiac in that story. And the reason I bring it up is because the Venom doesn't carry over to that. Like both of these have really a lot of detail, but the Venom doesn't. Like I would have wanted to see Venom then rendered in a similar capacity, because I've seen a lot of Brainiac 5s. I've only seen one Gary Frank Brainiac 5. It looks very similar to this. I'm sure that was the inspiration for Antonin. But either way, I think it's a cool image. I agree. I don't like the verses with it. It's not needed. Plus, I would have preferred if the camera brought out just a bit. Again, it's just a headshot at the end of the day. We've seen people, delivering so much more, particularly the stuff with Galactus, which requires you to render a lot more of the characters physically. So it would have been nice to have maybe seen, like maybe the torso up of these characters. We can actually see their physicality in the image as well. So that's probably my biggest complaint, is that I think having the verses and then not choosing to depict more of these physical creatures, you just don't get the sort of impact you could have gotten with it. But excellent inking job. I totally agree. All right, last matchup we have, I'm going to give to Jackie, and that is Jarg Art, and these are because the other person didn't show up again. We'll have to double check, make sure we got all that right. But this is a pretty interesting matchup here. What do you make of this, Jackie?
I think it's pretty decent. This is supposed to be, I believe, Doctor Doom and Destro.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I think it's good. I like the what they're doing. Obviously, they're fighting, and Deathstroke is nearly scraping him with his knife, and Doctor Doom is about to looks like obliterate him with like his electricity. But I think there's some anatomy issues with this. It looks like Deathstroke, his arm is a little too short. And I can't quite see Doctor Doom's body. It looks like it's a little bit twisted. I'm not too sure. I know that they were trying to fill it all in that one image, but what I will say is I like the how they shaded everything. I think they did a good job shading. The colors, obviously, they chose. They fit the character. I would have liked maybe to see a background a little bit, but other than that, I think it's a pretty decent piece. They did a good job. Like Whyt was saying, I appreciate them attempting to do such a difficult position in this type of perspective. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. I will say that, again, I'm going to say this probably all day long. I say it all the time to you guys anyway, so it doesn't matter. But me being so much older than you guys, I'm a student of American comic books. I grew up loving American comic books. And when I was a kid, I would get one of my favorite superhero comics of all time is Legion of Superheroes, which got its debut in the 1950s. So when I was a kid in the late 70s, mid to late 70s, they would have these things that kind of inspired me to create Saturday AM, actually, which are these little anthologies. They were like little, if you guys have seen the little Archie things in the grocery stores, DC and Marvel both kind of do something similar to that. They cost like 50 cents. You get like a bunch of old comics inside of it. And one of them was Legion of Superheroes. So I followed that story from that era. And these are stories that were from the 50s, but were being reprinted in that volume. And why am I bringing this up? Because I have built an affinity, absolute affinity, to the degree to which I have bought these very expensive hardcover edition collections of some of the comics from the 30s, 40s, and 50s from DC Comics, because there's something magical about those art style. I can't describe it. Young people today probably will laugh at it and think it's ridiculous. I'm positive. But at the same time, seeing old school artists like Kurt Swan and I'm going to forget half their names, but seeing some of those artists, there's something about it that really captures me, particularly when you're seeing them in their with really good primary color. And something about this image reminds me of like a good 1940s comic book. I love the color. I love the detail, like the mesh armor on Deathstroke. The anatomy is not great. Totally, that's 100% correct. But the story is being told, and that color, that green, gray, red, orange and blue, that color just pops to me. And I don't know why this piece really, I was really excited when I saw those. Like, oh, it's such a cool looking piece. There's so many problems with it. I totally agree, but I was really impressed with it. And when you think about the history of American comic books, the fact that if you didn't have comics that looked like this back in the 30s, you wouldn't have gotten Jack Kirby and Carmen Infantino and Jim Aparo and John Byrne and George Perez and Jim Lee and so on and so forth. So there's a magic to this for me that I really like, but I do see all the problems that everyone's going to see. So I actually do like this piece quite a bit. Okay, all right. So that is Team Apple Black. Now we will give our thoughts on Team Apple Black with our final votes at the end. Let's quickly move on to Bully Eater, which is next team. And of course, Bully Eater from the comic created by Raymond Brown. This concept here featured classic cartoons. So basically, they had to take a classic cartoon and update it with modern sensibilities. That means, either art style or character design and so on. So this one is really interesting, So we're going to get our thoughts on this here in just a moment. Let's begin first and foremost we're going to start with Morganne. Morganne, I want you to tell me what you think about Elemental 1996 versus FS Art. And
right.
We start first with Elemental 1996. I do not know. First of all, let me just say this right now again. Well, I'll say it again. I already said it a few minutes ago. I said I'm going to say it often. I'm old. I do not know who we have to hear. Who is this?
So I know it's from Avatar. I'm guessing it's a previous Avatar. I don't actually watch the show that much, but based on the eyes that are glowing, I think that this was like one of the past incarnations.
That's a really deep cut. That's a deep cut. That's a really deep cut for someone to be like, I'm going to update this with a character who was a side character of a cartoon.
Yeah.
Okay, but just real quickly, Whyt, Jackie, does anyone else have a guess as to who this is?
Someone put in the comments that it's Avatar Kyoshi, so I think Morganne is right.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Morganne.
Hey, I got one.
You got one.
Yeah.
All right. So what did you make of it?
I'm assuming this is traditional. It'd be hard to believe that it was digital. So I'm very impressed with the level of shading and coloring that was put into this image and just the rendering overall. I will say I'm not sure what aspect was modernizing it, unless it was just creating this character in a more realistic style or interpretation. But I don't really know if that fit the theme as well as they probably would have hoped. There's some details that look like they were not erased properly, like in the fans. And it just seems kind of like a floating torso. There might have been some better choices made in kind of finishing the image overall, but I really like the texture. I like the traditional rendering of this character. It's very impressive. It reminds me of like Ray Lamar and some past artists that we've had before.
I totally agree. I like the rendering of the fans and of her headpiece. Because I didn't know the character, it was hard for me to, that's one of the negatives is that not to this artist, but just the negative of evaluating art, which is always subjective anyway. But if you don't know the character, it's hard to, to kind of put it in perspective. But I do like the rendering of the fans and the headpiece. There's definition there. There's atmosphere. I really, really like that a lot. I think it's a really interesting piece. The opponent, FS Art. Now this one I do recognize. So this is the one and only Captain Planet. What'd you make of that, Morgan?
Yeah, this is another one of my favorites for the whole round. I think that they did a great job with just the overall composition. You've got the background. It makes sense with what's going on, the pollution and stuff, and then you've got these hero characters. They're there to stop it. I like the fact that they included the kids. I think when we think Captain America, we just think Captain America, or not Captain America, sorry, Captain Planet. But having the kids there, you have the entire, cast that's involved. Captain Planet seems a little bit like a villain. He kind of looks like Thanos with green hair to me, but that's probably because he's a little purple. He's got these gauntlets. But no, I think the rendering overall was really well done. I love, again, the attention to the background detail. They really sold, the narrative of this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think again, like I said, I'm with you. I didn't really watch Avatar, so I can't speak to Avatar. And like I said, that was a really deep cut character to choose. So there's a lot of stuff I liked in the image, but I just didn't understand a lot of what I was looking at. This one, I never watched Captain Planet either, but I knew what the plot of it was. And so with this one, what's impressive about this one is that number one, it's updating the character. I mean, this is not the way the character looked exactly. So they've updated it, like you said, with the gauntlets and the costume and so forth. I mean, if I remember, his previous costume was just more of a straightforward, kind of cheesy superhero costume. This one's kind of more like armor oriented and so forth. Number two, like you said, they've got the. I love the way he's being formed through the characters, and then conversely, you've got the background, with the smoke and the toxic fumes and so forth. I imagine. So this tells a story. This updates the character. This still maintains some proximity to what we recognize the character to be. So I agree with you. This is one of my favorite pieces of the whole tournament. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. I think it's a really solid piece. Okay, all right, let's go to Jackie. You ready, Jackie?
Yeah, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. All right, so we're going to Excellent Art versus Jace Art 2. Excellent Art. Now, I didn't know who this was until Jay Oden told me, so I cheated. But who is this, Jackie?
This is the Powerpuff Girls.
The Powerpuff Girls. I didn't even know that. I was like, because I never watched the Powerpuff Girls either. But
okay.
Yeah. So what'd you make of this piece?
So I'm actually a big fan of the Powerpuff Girls. I watched the cartoon all the time when I was younger. It was one of my favorites. So I could really appreciate everything that this artist did. They have the phone. They're taking a selfie. They're following the theme of the prompt, which is to take these classic cartoons and give them kind of like a modern update, a modern storytelling. I like how there's like a little message notification on their phones from the mayor, saying that one of the villains is attacking Townsville. That's exactly what the character would do in the show. And I think it was very creative of the artist to put that notification on the phone in a modern setting. I really also like how they just included a lot of the details from the show, like Bubbles holding her favorite stuffed animal, and all the villains in the background. And even the people in the audience have their phones and they're taking pictures of all the villains. I just think this is the artist really took their time, or they know the show really well and put this all together. But this is one of my favorite pieces, and I appreciate the color and everything about it. So it was really well done.
Like I said, I don't know the cartoon, but I couldn't agree with you more. I think everything in this illustration and this submission captured, I think, everything that this property is. They updated the character designs. They've got the city, which I think the city plays a role in the show. If I'm not mistaken, the villains are in the camera. You can see the villains in the background. They've beaten the villains, I guess. So it's really, this is a really well rendered thing. I don't know. I can't, because one of the great things too about the way they chose to do this is that if there are any discrepancies towards anatomy or draftsmanship in terms of how they kind of arrange things, it's hard. It's hard to see it because they've put so much story into it in a clever enough way that it even hides some of the things that may be issues. To me, it looks all great, but I'm sure if I look hard enough, I'll see maybe some things that don't quite sync up. But still, really well done. I didn't catch the text message piece, but now that you mention it, that seems really clever. One of the more imaginative and well executed pieces of the tournament in terms of conceptual. I think really strong piece of that. Their competitor took a character that I know well. I know this character very well. This is Popeye.
Yeah. I used to watch Popeye all the time too, so I appreciate this one too.
Did you? So you knew Popeye? I mean, I know it sounds stupid, but I thought people didn't know Popeye because he's such an old character.
Yeah, no. I think it has to do with my dad. My dad used to turn on a lot of really old cartoon shows, and Popeye happened to be one of my favorites that he would turn on, and I used to watch it a lot with him. So, yeah, yeah. I think this image that J Star did is pretty cool. They definitely they upgraded his costume first of all, so you could tell that this is a Popeye in the modern day.
This is
Um,
this is wife beater Popeye.
Yeah, he eats yams. Yeah, yeah. But he still has that spinach can that he's holding, but
Yeah, no, the phrase is what he says. That's what he says. That's not. He's not eating yams. He
oh,
always
oh,
says, "I am what I am," and blah blah blah.
right.
But yeah, he still has spinach. You can of spinach. But I just was working to the hoodie, which is cool. That's really clever. You know, sweatpants and a hoodie thing. That's clever.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I think it's clever too, and they I also like how they drew the face. I think the face looks good. The muscles look good. Um, Popeye, the design of Popeye himself, his arms are technically big, so they did kind of beef up the arms, and they included a picture of the original Popeye on a shirt. So I really like it. The only thing, like the biggest thing I'd have to say is they didn't really have a background for the character. Now I would have loved to see Popeye, because Popeye has saved so many people. So maybe in a modern storytelling scenario, he's living it up in a fancy mansion, because he's made so much money off of saving everyone. I would have liked to see a little bit more of a background story along with this image, but I think that's like the biggest thing I have with it. But everything else, I could definitely enjoy.
Yeah, I appreciate the artist trying to update it. I think the challenge with it for me is that so again, what you all don't see is that there's a side conversation going on in our intranet site that we use where we can communicate with each other, so we don't distract you guys with our conversations. So Whyt and Morgan were carrying a conversation about Popeye, and and then Morgan referenced the fact that she's like, yeah, there's a movie on Netflix with Robin Williams from the '90s, and I'm like, from the '90s? I saw it in the movie theaters when I was a kid. It was like in the late '70s or '80s. But my point in raising that, and one of the pieces, one of the things that makes me dislike this image, and I don't mean dislike it because I think it's well rendered, but dislike the image conceptually is that again, that's why I said I think a lot of young people probably don't know Popeye that much. He's a sailor. That's his whole thing. He's a sailor. He was a sailor. His uniform was even a sailor's uniform in the '30s. So he's a sailor, and so this is taking his. It's removing the uniform. Like he doesn't wear a ball cap. He wears a sailor's cap, and I think it's clever the hoodie thing and so forth. But that's again, he's a sailor. That's not how he would dress. So perhaps like like in Jacksonville, North Carolina, where the Marines are and stuff. Maybe he's a Marine now. I don't know, but like I would have, to your point, Jack, I would have preferred to see more story told visually, so that we get a sense of why he was depicting the character in the way he was, as opposed to just depicting the character visually a certain way. Because for those of us who know the character, as I said about the Avatar, I didn't know that character. It betrays a little bit of what we know the character to be. But I still love the rendering. I think it's a really good, cool picture. It's certainly neat. But yeah, he's not a sailor though. All right, so then let's go to Whyt. Whyt, you're up next, and next is Mystic Knight 3 versus Elzek. So let's go to Mystic Knight number 3. I definitely know these characters. What do you make of this image?
I think a really strong image. I guess they're reimagining Avatar in a more high school setting. And I like the cool shadows, and then the light source hitting, and how everything's kind of shaded and put together. The art style is really close to the original art style from Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that aspect of it, and I think it looks good. I think this is one of the stronger backgrounds as well. Really well put together, very tough angle, and there's a lot of effort to putting in all these characters in such a way where it's still clear what's going on. It's chaotic, but chaotic in a very purposeful way. to where I think it does work in the way it's put together. So yeah, one of the stronger pieces overall so far. I like the rendering. I like almost all of it. The anatomy is not too off. Maybe Aang's head might be a little.
That's what I was getting ready to say. That's the only thing that bothers me is Aang's head. Like it just looks like it this rendered perfectly. It sits on the body kind of strange, but again, like you can't tell if that's the way the camera is because you said he's squeezing so much in there. Maybe it's kind of like a bit of that fisheye thing, but that's the only thing that turns me off of it. I just can't rationalize what he's doing with the head. You're 100% right, or she's. I think it's a she actually. This is the most detailed, well-rendered background that I've seen in the tournament. Like every part of it makes sense. The projector at the top of the room, the desks, every part of the you can see the door that leads out of there. You can see the blackboard with writing on it. Like every part of the thing works, and they put that much detail in. It's really, really impressive. This is a really impressive piece.
Yeah, I think it does pretty well to also capture the characters as well, and not just the way they look, but I guess maybe their attitudes as well. So, very.
To your point about reimagining, again with the Popeye thing, like I said, it's reimagined. I would have liked to have seen the story told about why you reimagined it that way. I mean, maybe it does make sense, but I'd like to see how you got there. With this one, like you said, it's taking place in modern context. So he's even dressed the characters differently, but they're still the same characters, which is what a reimagining has to be. They still have to have the same attributes that define them in the first place. And like you said, here, the characters are still the same characters. Toph at the bottom there, that is what Toph will be doing. So yeah, I like this piece a lot. Elzac's piece, what did you make of this?
Okay, this is Freakazoid, which was I can't remember too much about Freakazoid, but I just remember when I was watching it, it was a pretty funny character. I could see it reminded me of The Mask a little bit. I could see them doing like a movie right now, to be honest. But overall, I like that. I like the piece. Again, there was always thing about him kind of being absorbed by the computer, and so you get this very computerized background here. Not so much computerized, but still selling that aspect of being sucked in. With the speed lines, and then you got all these modern day takes on popular, I guess, social media sites, and just, I guess, modernizing it that way, because that's the only reimagining aspect here that I'm getting from it, unless I'm missing something. But in regards to the rendering of the characters and how everything's kind of put together, I think this is really, really strong. There was a 3D touch to it as well, with the lines and everything, which I think kind of works because there's a lot of movement going on, and it's kind of entering a new dimension, the main character that is. And so overall, I like it. Captures the essence of the character as well. The rendering, the drawing, the coloring is really strong. Definitely one of my stronger pieces here. One of the stronger pieces here. I'm just... Maybe there could have been more with the reimagining aspect of it, but I do get it. It's just kind of reimagining it in today's age and how that would play out. But that's pretty much it. Overall, I do like the rendering, the characters, and it's clear what's going on. Good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, I agree. I think this is an interesting challenge, because with the Mystic Knight piece with Avatar, there's so much stuff there, and it's all packed in. This is very similar. There's so much stuff there. It's all packed in. The question is which one reads, which one tells the story that makes it more palatable. Part of it is, which property did you choose? And this is something we talk about all the time in March Art Madness. Part of the struggle, and one of the reasons we put people against each other, is that you have to have an eye towards the consumers. Like I tell our creators all the time, like you can't just create comics for yourself. You have to create comics because you want to entice an audience. You want them to laugh at what you want them to laugh at. You want them to be, scared for characters. And so part of March Art Madness that I love is that people have to choose what they're going to depict. They have to assume what the audience is going to get from it. In this case, like you said, I think you said it well. Freakazoid is a weird property because it's a property that happened in the 90s. It comes from the amazing Bruce Timm, who was one of the big creators of Batman the Animated Series and Superman and Justice League. So Bruce Timm is a legend in animation. Freakazoid is a legendary series. but it hasn't aged quite the same way. So telling the story about how you're updating it for such a strange property is a bit more difficult. And in this case, like you said, there's a lot of stuff going on here. So that part maybe is a bit more of a challenge. What's not a challenge that the rendering is so well done here. Like you said, the background is fantastic. The all the aspects of the character come through really well. You get the little Instagram post part of it, which I love. There's a lot here I really like. It's really going to come down, I think, to can people identify a Freakazoid and can they appreciate what Elzek is doing? But I think it's a really well put together image. Okay, all right. Next up, we're going to go to Morgan again. We've got Tokyo McFly versus Crossmark Arts. Ready, Morgan?
Yep.
All right, Tokyo McFly. I don't know who this is. I guess it's Danny Phantom. Danny Phantom.
Yep, that's Danny Phantom.
Okay.
He's going to.
So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I like this. I like the portal effect. It's very true to what happens in the series where he has this like ring that kind of crosses him and then he transforms from human to ghost. So I thought that was a nice effect. I think some of the coloring is not bad. Again, this goes back to the theme where I'm not sure how he's being modernized, except for some of his outfit is redesigned. At least the human side of him. He's got like earrings now, and he's not wearing like a red-white t-shirt. He's wearing like a jacket. But there's nothing else here that really screams that he's being modernized or updated other than that, I guess. And then the bubble, I get that he's saying I'm going ghost. I don't know if that maybe doing like this big white bubble was like the best thing to do on this image, but yeah, otherwise it's not bad.
Yeah, I don't know the character, so I can't really comment on. I mean, he looks, from what I remember seeing in terms of promo art, he certainly looks more modern. I mean, he's got the more manga look to it and so forth. The other one was just like a standard cartoon, right? It wasn't anime.
No, it wasn't. It was like it was made by the same people who did Fairly Odd Parents, so it was that same style.
I never watched that either. So I mean, so like this looks cool to me. I mean, I like the pose. I like the effect of the character. I'm going ghost. I don't know what that means, but it looks cool. The green flame thing, is that normal?
Yeah, it was like an ectoplasm type superpower he had in his ghost form.
I really should be watching. I really should watch Danny Phantom at some point. Yeah, it was pretty cool to me. I mean, I enjoyed it. I like what it is. I like the look of the character. Again, it looks different, and I do like the black-white combination. I know that's the costume. I do like that. So I thought it was a decent piece. It wasn't anything too dramatic, but I thought it was pretty decent. His opponent is Crossmark Arts. I definitely do not know this property at all. I clearly do not know this property. I've never heard of it. I don't know what this is.
I do remember this one as well. I don't remember if it was a Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network show, and I don't think I watched it as much as Danny Phantom, but it was basically it's what the title says is I'm a teenage robot. This is my life. So it was different adventures, saving different characters. That's all I remember. She had like different gadgets and stuff.
Well, when we put this theme together, my expectation was that people were going to choose stuff from my era because I know this is gonna sound blasphemous, but the cartoons of the '90s to me are just so uninteresting. I think of like, Thundar the Barbarian and Brave Star, and of course like those stuff like He-Man and yada yada. It's like there's so much more like imagination. Some of those properties. I look at some of these things and I'm like, I'm a teenage robot. I just don't know what that's meant to be. I don't know what to make of it. I mean, it's a cool image. It reminds me of an artist named Phil Foglio, who has a really fun artistic style, very round, and this kind of strikes me as such. I love the way the character looks, but again, I just have no frame of reference here to understand, if there's anything more dramatic going on with it. But I do like the kind of like the juxtaposition of color. Like the fact he's got this kind of gold pink background going on, but then like the main characters presented, I assume in the normal colors they're supposed to be. I don't know.
Yeah, the blue and white is her normal palette.
Okay, so I mean, I like this image a lot. I mean, there's a lot of detail for what it is. I do like that, but yeah, I don't know what else to say regarding that. I mean, it was a cool piece though.
Yeah, I think there's, some elements like she's got her gauntlet or something, or her blaster in the background, and on the right side it kind of shows her in like a battle mode or something where her eyes changed shapes. I kind of recognize the character in the top left. I don't remember if that was a friend or one of the scientists, because there was someone that had to like repair her in the show. And then I think she could fly, so you see that in the background. There's like a little element here and there that I don't remember, or I'm not sure if they work like those weird lines that are crisscrossing in the background. But I agree. I think the color palette is pretty nice. There's obviously a lot of contrast with the character in the foreground with the background. So.
All right. Okay. Well, then let's go to the next battle: Nebu Shiro versus Sir Isaiah. That's going to be Jackie Rindy. Ready, Jackie?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You there, Jackie?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, sorry. I guess my
Oh,
my mic was muted for a second.
no worries. Nebu Shiro. So this is Dexter's Laboratory, which they make very clear in the artwork. What do you make of this?
I really like Dexter's Laboratory. I think it's pretty interesting that they took a manga style approach to it. I know the character himself is really short and kind of chubby, so for the artist to make him into like this skinny, muscular, more of an attractive guy, I think it's kind of funny, but it also makes the character look cool too. I really like how Dexter's holding a Dr. Stone manga. It's pretty creative. I think I like how they're also kind of doing conducting some kind of experiment. Like they have like some kind of Saturday AM chemical. Um, and yeah, I really like it. I don't really think they needed to add the logo of the show in the picture. I also don't think they needed to add the logo of the March Art Madness competition, but it's there to take up some of the space. Um, I would have liked to see them have like a background, maybe like Dexter's in his lab. Um, but I mean, it's good in the sense that the vial that he's holding, it creates kind of this effect that lights on his face, which makes it look really good, almost like a poster. So yeah, I think this is a good piece.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really. I mean, first of all, Dexter. I was never keen on that character. The only thing they're missing are the glasses. So that part, yeah, because it's basically it's almost like another character. The glasses are such a distinctive part of Dexter. So not having the glasses, I think, is kind of a miss. I see the glasses are in his lab coat, but it still would have been interesting to have an animated look. Even with the glasses, because at least that would have been the character. Like you said, I do like the touches though. The Doctor Stone and the Sarian potion is pretty cool. So I agree. And plus, I agree too. And we're going to see that a few times in this chat where people put logos in it. I don't know why. I agree. I think it ruins the art. It does. It's not a big deal here, and it does sell the idea. But I don't know why you need to put the logo. You shouldn't have to. Just let the artwork breathe for what it is. Plus, they added the Mortal Madness logo, which was also unnecessary. So, yeah, a couple of logo things here that I wish they probably hadn't have done, but not a bad image at all. Very cool image. Next is a show I've never watched, but I knew it immediately when I saw it. It's Courage the Cowardly Dog, I think. So, what did you make of this one?
Yeah, so this show I watched a little bit, but I didn't get into it because it was too scary. Um, but I definitely tried to watch as much as I could of the show. Um, I think that it's pretty clear. It's very hard to see what's going on in the
Yes,
image. It's very dark.
very
Which I mean it works for the show because the show is very dark and has scary elements. It also has an element of comedy. Um, but I think what I probably would have liked to see is maybe like a flash of lightning in the background, and that kind of illuminates the villain in the background there in the alleyway. And maybe that lightning also kind of lightens up the background so that you can see more of what's going on. I do like they stayed on theme. Courage has his phone that he's looking on. Um, I don't recognize the villain character right there. But I do recognize Courage, and I think that this is a good piece of artwork. I just would have liked to see it kind of lit up a little bit more, so I could see the detail of what's going on. Like I know the artist put a lot of graffiti on the walls, and since the artwork is so dark, I can't really read what it says. I would have liked to see maybe what they put. Um, but yeah, I mean, this artist clearly has talent. I just would have liked to see it a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely the lighting, I think, should have been maybe just tweaked a tad bit. I don't, it could have been lightning, it could be moonlight, it could be another street light, but or they just could have just chosen to just maybe change the filter a little bit, because this part that's so messed up is that if you have to really look, but they detailed the background, like it's detailed. There's graffiti on the wall, there's caution tape, there's little thing, a gutter. There's all sorts of stuff in that background, and it's so dark that it just completely immobilizes some of the impact of it. And so yeah, so that's kind of, this is a strange piece, because like you said, the artist is very talented. There's a story being told here, but if you can't see it fully, then it kind of moves the point. And I think that this is just definitely a bit too dark. It didn't need to be that dark, but really cool stuff going on with it, and some really interesting ideas in terms of, again, even Courage, he's dressed a certain way. I don't know if he normally dresses that way. Looks like he got a coat on. I don't know, but like I would have loved to have seen more of this image lightened up as opposed to what we got. But definitely some interesting ideas in this. All right, next up we go back to Morganne. We have, I don't know how to pronounce this name, so I'm not gonna, either name I'm not gonna pronounce. So we're just gonna.
Kuro.
Yeah, there you go.
I guess.
Right. What do you make of Shirokuro?
I like this image. I mean, I like kind of the story. I don't really understand the dragon costume, because this is Avatar. I think that's oh god, I can't even remember his name. Whatever the villain's name starts with a Z. He's like eating spicy food, and then his friends or something are commenting. He's like live streaming. I don't know if this is like a mukbang type of situation, but yeah, some of the perspective is a little weird with like the buckets that are on the table of the food, but I do like the rendering. The coloring is really soft, and it works well with the lighter line weights. And I don't know if this was if there was a filter put on it to make it seem like it's being streamed, but I thought that was a nice touch as well. It works well with the coloring.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, it wasn't until you brought it up that I realized this was Avatar. And like I said, yeah, I think that's Prince Zuko. His hair is a little long. I guess that's how he looks later in the series, because I didn't watch the show much. But so yeah, I mean the cups. That's what kind of takes me out of it. Is that the stuff doesn't it doesn't line up correctly. Like that bowl in the middle is kind of the way it's illustrated. The perspective makes it look like it's touching the two cups next to it, which would then make it weird in terms of how it's doing that. So I think it's a really interesting piece. I think there's a lot of ideas here, and I love the artist's sensibility. I like the depiction of the character, but I do think some of the environment is a bit difficult because just the rendering and the pacing and just being able to create balance on that table with the cups and so forth really kind of because that's so much in the foreground, it really kind of removes to me some of the similitude that you look for in art. There's a lot of balance issues, I think, in this particular piece. The next, her competitor, I believe, is this young person named T4 Icky. I'm sure I'm getting that wrong. This one is a bit more, this is much more balanced because everything is kind of in perspective to one another. What did you make of this? I don't know what this is, by the way. I don't know what property this is.
I don't remember the name of the show, but it's like a kid's show that would have been on like PBS or Nickelodeon or something.
It's Dragon Tales.
Dragon Tales, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the dragons are really well done. I think that they really they look like the characters, so they did a good job capturing that. I like what's going on where the kids are playing the Nintendo Switches and they're playing very, modern popular games like Pokemon and I can't remember the name. It's the Squid.
Yes,
But to me, the background really stood out to me because it was very well done. The detail that was put into the grass and the sky, that didn't get forgotten after all the detail that was put into the characters, because there was obviously a lot of work doing the cell shading and drawing these characters that they looked believable. I think my only negative comment would just be the little insets that show the games that they're playing. There could have been some more thought with how those were placed in the image, because all the characters themselves are really well placed, but these things kind of seem like an afterthought. They were just sort of tacked on. So there could have been something a little more creative with incorporating those into the overall composition.
Yeah, I thought this was a very strong piece. I actually think this is a really, really strong piece. I'm glad you mentioned the grass. I don't know if we'll ever talk about grass again, but man, this is some good looking grass. Really well rendered. I love the shadows on it and so forth. I love the particular quality taken to different aspects of the grass, various flowers and leaves that are growing in it. I love the story being told with the two kids. I like that we get to see what they're playing, and even those things that they're playing are well detailed, well rendered. The dragons, yes, look fantastic. I don't know the show, so I don't know if these look accurate, but they look perfect in conjunction with this piece. The sky looks fantastic. This is just a total picture to me, total well rendered illustration. I like this quite a bit. Okay, next up we have Okanotes and Noir.arts. I'm going to go back to Jackie on this one, and then we'll wrap up with Whyt on the final one for this team. So, Jackie, we're talking about Okanotes. This has a number of classic characters in here. What do you make of this?
Yeah, so the artist, they made Popeye, they made Pink Panther, Astro Boy, and then Betty Boop. I really like how they're all kind of sitting on the couch playing video games. That's totally what people would be doing in today's day and age. And they really drew the characters like on point.
Yeah,
Like you recognize them instantly. Which I think that's a really good skill to have as an artist, to be able to do that. Um, and I like the storytelling aspect. I really like. It's just a great image. Yeah, it's a great composition, and I really like it. Only thing maybe I would have done differently is I would have put something maybe in the background to kind of, because we want the focus to be on these characters, but we don't want to put something in the background that would distract away. But at the same time, I feel like that empty space on the wall is a little bit distracting. Um,
yeah, that's a lot of empty space. If this was my design team, I would be criticizing that. But I will say the attention to detail to this is amazing. The characters are all on model to each other. They are respective to the original creators or the original look of the characters. The only modernization here is what they're doing. Betty Boop looks fantastic. Whyt just pointed out that Astro Boy's drink is fuel, which is perfect considering the character. I love the little shiver going up Pink Panther, which is normal for that character. And of course, Popeye is drinking Schlitz malt liquor, which is normal. I like this piece a lot. I think this is one of my favorite pieces in the entire tournament. Uh, so interestingly enough, and this happens sometimes with a strange component, the two artists going up against each other draw similar characters. So Noir Arts depicted also Betty Boop. And what do you make of this?
So, I recognize Betty Boop right away, but unfortunately, I do not know the names of the other characters, but I have seen them all before. I know that
Mm,
clown guy was like, he was one of the first characters to be animated alongside a live action person, because I was watching like a documentary, but I don't know the name of the clown. And then the two other characters on the end, I've seen them before, but I don't know the series that they're in. I'm thinking maybe it's something on Boomerang. But I like the image. The artists really took these shows and did it in their own style, which I really appreciate. I also like how they took a basic coloring approach. I think again that fits with their cartoony like look. Um, Now I don't know what exactly they're doing. It looks like they're performing like on a concert. I'm not too sure what's going on. But I don't really see I don't see the modern theme in this particular piece. Um, but I think they did a good job in uh, just framing everything, making sure everything is pleasing to the eye. So I could appreciate this one.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with either. It looks like she's falling through the floor. I mean, one of the characters, the dog, has like what looks like a saw. I don't know what's going on with this, but I do think I think that I think this I think it's a positive piece. Yeah, I mean these are Max Fleischer cartoons. Yeah, I mean that part is true. Yeah, I just don't know kind of what's going on with it. I will say Noir Arts is, if you've not seen his art, I really like this artist a lot. I've seen their art. I follow their art. I think it's just really distinctive. It's really fun. It's got a style that's 100% theirs. So I really, really respond to it. But I do think this piece was a bit strange. I couldn't quite match what was going on with it. Betty Boop, of course, is illustrated differently. So, all the eyes are the same for all these characters. But, she obviously is more physically modern, which, of course, is modernization. But it just doesn't quite sync with what is going on. Like, are they in a nightclub? What's going on with that floor? I just can't quite make that out. But I do love this artist quite a bit. So interesting piece, definitely interesting battle between Oaks and Noah Arts, because they both use Betty Boop. So this will be an intriguing one to watch. All right, our final matchup of this team, and then we'll take a slight break and then wrap everything up, is Gideon Accor versus Jello Studios. Whyt, Gideon Accor, what do you make of this?
So definitely, I think the reimagination is just, they look like they're staying home because of the virus right now, just playing video games. Definitely a reimagination with the clothing and the style and the way things are put together. Obviously, both characters in the series are somewhat rivals as well, so I think this really works. I think the background could use a little more rendering, but I do like the fact that there was an effort made to make sure that there was, and you have that extra character in there. I forgot her name. I think she does sand. I'm also not a huge Avatar watcher, but I definitely have seen enough to know exactly what's going on. I like the rendering of the Coke can as well. Some of the rendering here, I think, has come off really good, and it's very clear what the artist style is. So again, a piece that I think is strong. Enough characters in there to sell the message. You got a little fun mascot-looking character eating some chips. So overall, I think strong piece, good coloring. It could be better in some areas, especially in the background. Gets a thumbs up from me.
I think it's going to be an interesting matchup, because I do think both of these pictures are very different from one another, these two artists, but are very well rendered. This, like you said, takes a very loose approach, which I love. I love loose line weights, where the line weights are not harsh but still communicates quite a bit. This doesn't have a ton of facial lines, but yet you understand perfectly what's going on with both Aang and I think Zuko. Toph's in the background. It's not well rendered, but it's not meant to be. She's in the background. Takes a very kind of postmodern approach to the background and stuff. I like this a lot. I think it's like this is one of my favorite pieces. But the next piece I like a lot as well, which is by Jello Studios. Now, I don't know who this is. I just love the rendering of it. Does anyone know who this is?
No idea, but I know I also like the rendering of it. I don't know if these people planned to do stuff that's pretty similar, but I like the fact you have the empty carton pizza, drinks, you have all these ghost characters. Remind me of
Danny Phantom.
Danny Phantom? Okay. Reminds me of Slimer from Ghostbusters.
That's what I thought. I thought it was Slimer. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, Slimer from Ghostbuster. Playing the video game, I like the fact that the character is directly looking at us, almost like it's playing us. We're looking at him and looking right back at us. Overall, fun piece. Even though it's traditionally rendered, I still think it's really strong. Even the fact that it's not rendered completely to the edge. It just has like this very round feel, very purposeful approach to coloring traditionally, where I think it still works. And yeah, I do like the way it's rendered. I do like the composition of the piece. It seems it's strong in my book. So
extremely strong. The facial expression, to me, what sells this piece is the facial expressions. They are so incredibly detailed with such little line work, and they're all ultra expressive. Like you said, he's staring right at you, but the tongue feature where his tongue is out, it just everything about this, you know exactly what each character's thinking and how their what their motivations are. But then the fact you add to it the fact that his body posture is 100% correct for somebody playing a video game. The table's well rendered. The pizza box is probably the only thing that looks a little weird because it looks very flat. Everything else looks pretty full body. The pizza box looks a little flat, but again, really, really well done. But like I said, this is a tough one. I think both these artists are extremely talented. There's no question of that, and their talent level comes through. Obviously, like there's nothing you can talk about regarding what these guys can do. To me, talent always comes down to one simple thing, and that's if we ask you to do something, can you do it? And I think these are two artists that no matter what we ask them to draw, they can draw it. And hats off to both of them for that. Okay, guys, so that concludes Team Bully Eater. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. We still have Team Clock Striker and Team Saigami, and we're going to give our votes on each one. We're going to be rocketing through this, folks, in the very next half of this. So please, those of you who may want us to spend a lot of time talking about things, we're not going to do that. We're just going to jump in. We're going to give a couple of quick thoughts on each entry because we don't want this broadcast to go too long. So with that, I'm going to pull up something you guys can check out here, and when we take a quick 5-minute break, and then we will come right back and finish everything up. You guys know how I feel about your health. You guys know how I feel about you guys taking proper precautions. So I'm sure this screen will sit you well the next 5 minutes. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. Don't you guys go anywhere. right, guys, and we are back. Let me give a couple of quick notes before we get started again. This is Saturday AM, the world's most diverse shonen manga anthology. And this is March Art Madness, the world's toughest art competition. Our fifth year doing it. This is a 2020 edition, and we are super excited to have all of you here supporting us and supporting these amazing artists who come from countries around the world. In fact, this is one of the most diverse classes of artists that we've ever had. We've got artists hailing from India, South Africa, Nigeria, Congo, United Kingdom, Canada, Ireland, Ukraine, Serbia. Artists coming from Colombia, Ecuador, Mexico, Brazil, the United States, of course, Australia, Israel, and I believe Iraq. So this is an extraordinary event that hopefully continues to do what we stand for, which is celebrate all the differences that we have and care about representation, because it's through representation that the sort of boogeyman mentality that so many people in this world have, that we can eradicate that. All of us are the same. We all have the same wants and the same desires. We all have the same fears and the same threats to our livelihood. And so seeing each other represented as heroes and as characters who are the stars of our own stories, that really helps to make the world the sort of place that all of us actually live in and the sort of place that all of us want to live in. So Saturday AM is here for you if you love manga art style and you want to see it with characters who are Indian, or characters who are African American, or characters who are Latino, or characters who are from Scotland or different parts of the world. Then we're here for you. Traditional manga doesn't do a great job of that, but we've been doing it for 7 years. We started the category. In fact, we've got some great products you'll be seeing later in the year, including a brand new magazine, physical magazine, all new from Saturday AM, called Super Saturday. We also have a line of collectible figures from Jabberwocky Toys that will be featuring some of our characters. So Saturday AM is bigger than it's ever been. We have a list of companies who work with us. We have a list of creators from around the world, including countries like Saudi Arabia. And of course, we have our brand new app. If you want to support Saturday AM, please consider supporting our app. Here's two things, folks. It's a free download. You do not have to pay to enjoy the app. Download the app. New issues of Saturday AM. In fact, every 3 issues of Saturday AM are free. So you never have to pay if you just want to read Saturday AM. You don't have to pay anything. For the first time, you can enjoy our magazine completely for free right in the app. Just simply download it for Android or iOS. If you pay, however, you can unlock new material. For example, we have our entire backlog of old issues. We're continuing to update that. So we have over 100 issues that we'll continue to update, so you get more and more of those issues. Eventually, all 100 issues of Saturday AM will be in the app. Old issue of Saturday PM as well. Likewise, we have a store function there. So if you want to actually just purchase specific content or exclusive content you can't find anywhere else, like our brand new retro series where you can get brand new content featuring things like Apple Black and Better Off Ignorant and so on and so forth, well, then you can do that all within the app. We've got some other things coming soon that we'll be announcing for the app. So trust us, it's well worth your time. You can enjoy it for free, or you can pay a little bit of money per month. It's an equal value to what you pay other companies for, and you can get the best independent, diverse, and the biggest brand in those areas for manga content. So check out the Saturday AM Global Comics app on Android or iOS. It's also supposed to be available for Amazon. We've had some issues with some technical things. We're working on resolving that. So if you are a Kindle Fire user, be on the lookout. We will be announcing the availability of that very, very soon. That being said, of course, we are discussing March Art Madness. We're about to get back to it with brand new content. Before we get started, though, it would be important for me to mention that we do have another version of the contest. It's for alternates. We're going to be talking about this more at the end of today's live review show, but you can find that material on the Anime Motivation website. It features 3 entirely new groups. Remember, right now we've got Team Apple Black, Team Bully Eater, Team Clock Striker, Team Saigami, all on our website, and those have all the artists that you can vote for right there on our website. But on Anime Motivation, you'll find 3 all new groups. We'll talk about those at the end of the chat. So please make sure that you are ready for that. And last but not least, we'll be unveiling some new content for our app very soon. Saturday AM issue number 116, of course, is currently in the app alongside of issue 115, issue 114 for free. Issue 117 will be coming this time next weekend. And it's going to have an amazing cover featuring Tender Loving Punch. It's got some great content in it as well. We also have new issues of Fan Art Friday soon to hit the app also. So be on the lookout. Some great content. If you haven't been reading Orisha, which is our brand new series devoted to an all-African cast, you're missing out. Check out Saturday AM latest issues for free, exclusively in the Saturday AM Global Comics app. Now, if that said, we're about to get back to it. Are you ready, Jackie and Morgan and Whyt?
Yep, good to go.
Already.
You guys ready? Maybe I can't hear you guys. Are you good? Can I hear you? Oh, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. All right, well, let's get started then. Let's get going here. All right, so then next up we have Team Clock Striker. Now, I know everybody knows this is your favorite group, folks. We all know that. Team Clock Striker. I will already tell you guys now that I fully expect the team named after my series that I created, Clock Striker, featuring Shonen Manga's first black female lead character. I fully expect the winner of this year's tournament to come from this group. I know those are fighting words, but I believe it because there's some great artists in here. This first round for this group was all about anime, and what they had to do was race or gender bend. That means they had to change the look of the character, of your favorite character, into a different ethnicity or a different gender. So there's some really great images in here. I'm going to be curious to see if everyone gets some of the changes that were made. First up, we have Ammo Cat versus Tyson for free. And I'm going to begin with Morgan. You ready, Morgan?
Yes, I am.
All right. Morgan, who is this?
That's a good question because I don't know. I don't know if it was race bending or gender bending or both.
I think it's both. First of all, this is manga we're talking about. This is anime, so everything probably going to have some race bending to it. But what I think this is Remy from Black Lagoon, but someone correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that series, so I don't know.
All right, well, we'll find out. What did you make of this?
Well, I think they did a great job drawing the character. The proportions and just the body details look really good. I like the pose. I mean, again, I don't know who the character is, but I think that there's a lot of personality that was put into this character. I think it would have been nice to maybe pull it back a little more and see the full character, but otherwise, I think with the coloring, the shading, and the line work, and just, you know, the skill with doing the proportions correctly, I think that this was done very well.
I think this was really cool. I think this is really, quite frankly, this is a really perfect image. I didn't see any faults with it, except for, which a friend of mine pointed out to me, the pubic hair, which appears to be coming from the crotch. I don't know if that's what that is, but I was like, is that pubic hair? A level of detail I was not expecting. I think it's a great image. I think the anatomy is amazing. I think the pose is fantastic. Again, this is both a race and gender bend of a character. So really cool. This was one of my favorite images of the entire tournament so far. Their opponent is Tyson for free. And now this one, I am not sure I know what this is. So maybe you can help me. What is this image you think?
So I have not watched it, but I do recognize it. It's from Demon Slayer. It's whoever the kid who wears like the boar's mask.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Well, I would have thought that's beyond me. The boar's mask is on the ground, but okay, got it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Again, not having seen the series, it took me a long time to like just now to understand that there's this weird pose that the character is doing. I couldn't figure out where his legs were, but he's got one that's like pulling over. I know he does like really weird posturing, or I don't know. It's hard to explain. So I can appreciate that they're trying to incorporate that into this character. The original character was white or Asian, so this is a race bending image. I like the attempt to do some really interesting perspective with character looking up and, trying to show perspective with these other objects. I think, again, some of the proportions are a little weird. It kind of makes the perspective seem off. But I do like the coloring and the sort of sketchy vibe to it. It just looks really well with some of the details that they've put here.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting. I mean, first of all, I think the original artists of Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, is they're unique. They're not the standard shonen sort of artists. So I think artistically, there's probably more similarities here than some of the other Demon Slayer bending things we'll see a little bit later on. So that part impressed me. I agree with you. The perspective here is difficult for me to get into because it's and I've read the manga, so I don't remember this perspective. So maybe what you're saying is accurate, but this didn't capture me. Like, I did not recognize the Demon Slayer thing in this. I would have preferred to have seen, if you're going to race bend or gender bend the character, I would have preferred to just see the character with the boar's head. Like, I mean, the skin color would be different, and but the pose and everything that I'm familiar with the character having would have been there. You could have had the boar's head on there and dreadlocks coming down, but I would have preferred to have seen some of that. I think just seeing it from this angle, it's really difficult for me to make out what's going on. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I do like some of the way that the background was captured. So that part did kind of intrigue me a little bit, but for the most part, it's an interesting piece. I can't say it totally captured me, but it was an interesting piece. Definitely hats off to Tyson for Free for that. Okay, all right, moving on. The next challenge that we have, the next matchup is Juanis Burbano, I believe, versus Yarshami Art. So we have Giannis, who I'm sure is going to win some points for popular choice here. We'll go with Jackie on this one. Jackie, who is this?
This is for Juanis Burbano and then Yerushalmi Art.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who's the character depicting?
So this is supposed to be from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This is Jotaro and then Star Platinum.
Yeah, go ahead, Jackie. Look at Jackie.
I know my anime better than I do my superheroes. I'll tell you that.
Understood. I just like the way you said it. Like, this is Jotaro and this is Star Platinum. That was very good. Well, so what did you make of this piece?
I thought it was really good. I loved the coloring. I loved the cell shading that they did. The coloring is amazing. Composition is great. Everything about it is very good. I don't really have anything negative to say about it, other than maybe adding a little bit more shadow, like under her neck, Jotaro's neck, maybe within the folds of her clothes. But I mean, these are just like little things. I think this is a really good image.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Again, like we said, I think back around the Apple Black group, someone had Venom versus Brainiac, and I thought the close up there kind of robbed the image maybe a little bit, because the headshots are really good, but it just seemed kind of forced, it wasn't or not as imaginative. And this one, I think everything that needs to be captured here is captured. I think it's captured really well. It's a female character. We get the female aesthetic, I think, pretty easily. It still captures JoJo, though. JoJo's a very kind of like withdrawing character. So even though it's a woman, we get enough to know it's a woman, but she's still like doing everything that JoJo would do. The hat's pulled down pretty low. The collar's popped up a lot. JoJo never shows himself that much. And the Star Platinum could be a woman. I looked at it, I was like, could that be a female version of Star Platinum? It could be, but I thought this was well rendered, and I thought the perspective on it was just fine. I think it needed to have more to it, but I get people wanting to see more. The opponent here, Yashami Art, I remember this artist was amazing. They're an Israeli artist. What did you make of this piece? This is Jiraiya, I believe, from Naruto. I know my Naruto.
Yes.
What'd you make?
Yeah, so that's Jiraiya the Toad Sage, and then his frog jutsu. But I really like this image. I could tell that it was drawn traditionally, probably with like Copic markers. But it's a really good image. I really appreciate how they redesigned Jiraiya's clothing for a female figure. And I just really like the coloring. Again, I think this is a really awesome piece. It's one of my favorites. So, hats off to Yerushalmi Art for drawing this one.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the thing about the Copic, because I remember with Yerushalmi Art last year, which was the first time we saw him. He does have a really, really good, like he can use Copics really well. I've talked before about how I see artists try to use Copics and they're not very good at it sometimes, because Copic is definitely, you got to know how to blend that color just right to make it look just pristine. But he really is a great user of Copics. Maybe he uses a different marker, I don't know, but he can use marker to color his work really well. There's a lot of fidelity. There's no gaps where you see the marker streaks too heavy. So really, really good. And I do like the touches you said he made to Jiraiya. So this is a tough battle because I love the color, which is more digital for Juanes Bravano, but I also love just everything done in this piece. The pose obviously is more of a full body, so we get more imagination depicted in terms of the character's look. So I agree. This is a tough one. This is a tough matchup. Okay, next up, we're going to go to Whyt. We have this is Manu Azumi versus Thero the Kid. This is the Thero the Kid one that set the work in. Tough. Let's see here. So this first one, Whyt, who do you think this is? I think I know who this is, but who do you think this is?
This is a Mustang, I think, from FMA, and so there's a gender bend right here.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely like all the colors that are happening in the background. I like some of the fire stuff, and I also like the attempts to pull off the character from this angle. I think a lot of it's really strong and very well done. I think the costume is also really well done. I think it fits what the character, might have looked like if they were a female. I'm not 200% sure if they would have had all that hair, but maybe they would. And then I do think the size of the head could be a little better.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I appreciate the attempt at this angle. I like all the blurs of all the particles that are flowing all over the place. It just really works very well. Very strong piece. Grade A for me.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite pieces of the whole show. I will say I disagree with you a little bit. Like, again, I'm not a massive Fullmetal Alchemist fan. I cannot stand the voice actors in the American anime. I don't know why. The Al screams too much to me. I can't take it. But that said, I feel like Mustang would not dress like this if he was a woman. I feel like he's a very conservative character. I feel like he would be more conservative. Like he'd either have a pantsuit or I love it. It doesn't matter. I love the pose. I love the way the trench coat component kind of billows with the smoke and everything else. So I feel like this is a dramatic image. I just don't know if Mustang would dress this way, but I do like this image a lot. This is such a cool image. Great perspective. I really love this piece. Their opponent is Thero the Kid, and as before, they had shot their stuff to us with the incorrect label. So if you voted on this, you may not have voted on it initially because we couldn't find it. They didn't label it the way they're supposed to. That said, I do not know what this is. Do you know what this is? Whyt, do you know what this is?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'm still looking at it a bit. I do not know. I actually don't. And let me see. Maybe somebody
forget the Danny Phantom, which is the wrong group for Danny Phantom. So yeah.
So I don't know what it is, but if it is Danny Phantom, you still see like the green ghosts again. So it probably is, that we thought was Slimer. This looks like a background that would have been maybe fitting for the Dexter's Lab background that we saw earlier. Overall, I like the piece. I like the composition of it. I like how the green is like lighting up the room. So the coloring work here, I think, is pretty good. I think the artist stepped out of their comfort zone a little bit to make that work. And I think they did a decent job of what they've put together. All the particles flowing all over the place. Clearly something that you can see as a poster, even for a movie poster. Some of the rendering obviously could use a little more work, but overall, I think they did a good job.
Yeah, it's an interesting piece. Again, like I said, it's unfortunate because again, this is going to get a lot of negative points, which is how we determine the winner is their point things on there. So anyway, regardless, I think that at the end of the day, this is an interesting piece. I agree with you. There's a lot of environmental activity here, but at the end of the day, it's just, it's hard to put it in the right frame of review because it's not depicting what it needs to depict. So it's hard to compare it to the Mano-a-Mano piece. But, there are a lot of things here I like about it. I do like the little kind of yellow, black, kind of sciencey background of whatever that he's in, where he's unleashing his power. I think there is a Akira aspect of it that's pretty cool. Okay, all right. Next up, we have Morgan. You ready? I tell you what, let's stay with Whyt for this one. We'll go to Morgan for the next one. Whyt, we'll stay with you here. This one's Andreal M Art versus Camo 988. So this is what I always feel like I always feel like you're a Bleach person. I know you were a big fan of Bleach when it originally existed, so like you're a Bleach person. So what do you make of this?
Okay, so obviously this is, we all know this is Bleach. Funny enough, I think Bleach anime is returning. And yeah, when I was starting off, I was a Bleach person. Not my favorite anime, not my favorite manga, but definitely I'll consider myself a Bleach person. So overall, the piece I think is really strong. The background, very simple, but I think it gets the job done. It looks like one of those pieces that could be considered a straightforward, like, character illustration type thing. You get to see the full illustration, and I think it works pretty well. Is a little different to see the characters Ichigo, his hair in this format, and maybe it's one of those things that will work as well. I like the rendering, I like the coloring, I like the sky. I think that there are a lot of things that work here. Maybe the pose could be a little better, especially with the way he's holding or she's holding the sword or Zanpakuto in this case. The pose could be a little more interesting, but definitely the coloring and how it's being rendered is very strong. And I like the efforts with the folds in the clothes and the efforts to put together a background. Everything just feels a little too safe, but for the most part, it's a really strong image.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting image. I mean, I'm not a Bleach fan. I'm notoriously not a Bleach fan. So I like Kubo as an artist, and I certainly thought some of the things from the Soul Society was interesting. I'm more of a Naruto person by far, but I think that it's interesting, and the concept's interesting. This fits for what it is to me. I mean, it fits pretty well. I think the pose fits, the Zanpakuto, at least to what my memory of it fits. I like the female component, which I wish there had been a bit more, kind of like we're talking about Full Metal Alchemist a few minutes ago, I wish there had been a bit more imagination as to what a female, whatever his name is, Ichigo would look like. Because this one is just, the same costume, just with a girl. But still, it's interesting for sure, very interesting, and I actually like the background. Again, it fits Bleach. Most of Bleach that was one of Kubo's criticisms, that he didn't draw a lot of background, so this kind of fits it a little bit. So an interesting piece for sure. They're going up against, of course, one of the godfather of shonen manga, which is Dragon Ball, as depicted by Camo 988. So whoops. Here we go. All right, and so with this, what do you make of this piece?
Oh yeah, so I think this piece is a really well done piece. I like the folds in the pants. I really like the lighting overall, the character charging up. Definitely a gender bending of, I'm gonna guess, Goku.
Well, it's not gender, it's a race bending.
Sorry, race, my bad. And so I like the charge up. I like the lighting of how the characters put together. Charging up pose, pretty simple. I like the fact that he or she put in the speed lines just to allow us kind of focus on the character a whole lot more and sell the intensity of the piece, the character screaming, yelling. Yeah, this is, very straightforward. See the full character, everything. It sells what it's supposed to be completely. Again, the same way the other one sold Bleach, I think this sells Dragon Ball pretty well, and the coloring is really good. So, really good work.
Yeah, I think this this has some of the best folds and clothes that have been in this entire tournament. I think the other one that made me notice how well they rendered the folds and clothes was the Joker piece where he was fighting Loki and he had his leg up in this weird pose and you can see the folds of his of his pants. I just thought that was a really well done rendering of clothes, and I think this one is too. You can see all the folds there. The coloring here, I'm not as sold on the coloring here as you are. Again, this piece is an amazing piece. I'm not going to knock the piece as well rendered all the way through. I just wish that it had been a little bit, the color had been different. If it is a race bin, which it is, I feel like the skin tone here is completely off. Like he's got dreads, so I assume he's meant to be African American, but I don't know. It would have been nice to have seen a bit more of that depiction of Goku because the light is so vibrant and
he's light skinned, Fred. He's light skinned.
Well, I assume so, but then again, I'm not saying right. I mean, I guess so. But it would have been nice to just see a bit more of the ethnicity come through because right now it's kind of hard. It was even hard to make out the dreads, frankly, because it's so dark. It's not as dark as that Courage piece, but it's still pretty dark. But this is real well rendered. Couldn't agree more. The body, the clothes, the pose, the energy coming from it. It's really well rendered. Okay, all right. So Morgan, I think, or no, Jackie, you're next. It's going to be Grima versus Brahim Draws. So you ready?
Yeah.
All right. That was an enthusiastic yes. I don't know who this is, Jackie. Who is this?
You know, I didn't know who it was either. I'm still guessing as to who it is, but my best guess it's from an anime called Noragami. I think in particular the girl character because the girl looks like the main character. But I could be wrong. I don't know, but that's just my best guess.
Does anyone else know what this is? Morgan or Whyt?
No, I have no clue.
Oh, it looks like it's L from Death Note.
Okay.
Oh, it could be Light and Light and L. Yeah, I think it's just because yeah, I don't know. But I do appreciate, like they drew the faces really well. I like what they're doing. They're just kind of like looks like they're chatting with each other. Looks like Elle is showing Light like her new phone. I would have liked to see this image colored, and I would have liked to see a background. But sometimes artists, we don't have a whole lot of stuff to use as far as like coloring goes. So artists did what they could do, and I think it came out okay.
Yeah, I think this. I think that some of the choices here are a bit puzzling. I think I'm not sure if color necessarily mattered here, but if this is Death Note, I think there's not enough here to communicate Death Note. Death Note's all about tension. It's all about thriller. I don't recall the characters being dressed the way that these characters are dressed, which again is a gender bend, so they would be dressed differently. But I don't recall the characters being dressed in any way. Like the only person I know who would be in a suit. Elle wasn't in a suit, so I can't imagine Elle would be dressed like that. Neither was Light. So I'm confused as to who the black character is meant to be.
Yeah, I think Light here is in a suit. Sometimes he's in a suit, and so he's the one holding the pen. So he's race bended, and then Elle is gender bended. And you can see the way he's holding the phone. But I agree with you with everything you're saying.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen. I mean, maybe towards the end when he joined the police, but I remember him being in a suit, and even then I think it was rare. But that said, though, one of the other things that really bothered me here was I don't know what's going on with Brumman's hair, but that's some weird stuff going on with that hair. I don't know what's going on with that hair, but that is that's gonna keep me up at night. I don't know what hairstyle that is.
Yeah, I don't see Light rocking that type of hairstyle.
I do not see Light rocking that. I don't see. Let's be clear. I don't see Tyrone Biggums, LeBron James, anybody rocking that hairstyle. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is, but that's not a normal African American hairstyle. So either way, this is an interesting piece. But again, sometimes it comes down to choices, and I think this is one of the scenarios where some of the choices are a bit puzzling because I don't think you make choices and the choices sometimes work, and that's what art's all about. But I think this is some choices here that maybe don't work as well as I think the artist may have intended. Next up is Brahim draws an opponent, and this is Black Clover, I think, right?
Yeah,
Black
it's
Clover?
Black Clover. It's Asta, the main character.
Yeah, Asta. Okay, so what'd you make of this? Very
I
sexy.
Yeah, it is. It really is. But I really like how the artist colored her. It looks like they used colored pencil. I could be wrong, but it definitely looks like colored pencil
Mm,
to me.
mm.
Um, but I really like how they, they drew the sword. And the character is very recognizable. They didn't do a whole lot in terms of like changing the design, just like a couple little things just to make it more of a feminine version. But I think this is a really great design. Again, same with the other drawing. I really wish they would have added a background. I think a background would have made this image look so much cooler, kind of like the background for the female Ichigo. They use kind of like that blue sky and the ground. Now, if this artist would have done the same thing and put that kind of background in their picture, I think the whole piece as a whole would have looked a lot better. But that's just me. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair. I think it's fair. I think I like the pose. Actually, I like the pose quite a bit. I think it's I don't know why, but like there's something about the body language here where it seems like a woman holding a big sword. I know that might not necessarily be politically correct, but she looks like a woman holding a sword. And I think that's intriguing to see. Like he captured some of the innate physicality of a shorter female protagonist. The handle of the sword is what throws me off. That handle seems awfully long and seems to be kind of bent a little bit. Doesn't quite seem to sync up with where her hand is. The grip is great. The hand grip is great, but the top part of that handle seems a bit strange. But otherwise than that, I think it's a really solid piece. I didn't recognize the colored pencil, but I couldn't agree with you more. This looks like colored pencil, and it looks like a really, like Yara showing me art. This looks like an artist who knows how to work with colored pencils because the coloring is pretty complete. That's a strong piece for what it is. But again, that's a very sexy looking. I don't know how that bra is staying up on her body. I don't know how that bra is staying up on her body, but it is. All right, Morgan, you're next. We've got the original Amani versus Ovo the artist. You ready?
Yep.
All right. So the first one here, you will recognize one of my favorite anime of the past 10 years, Mob Psycho 100.
Yep.
How do you like this?
I like it quite a bit. I think the coloring overall is really well done. The cell shading style is done very well. They obviously chose to do race and gender bending with Mob, and then I cannot remember the little goober's name to the side, but it looks like he was also gender bent as well. I think the style that they did with like the 3D element of the text and also the aura that's surrounding her, I think was a really nice touch.
Yeah.
This was a really good piece in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's some anatomy things. The legs seem kind of a bit odd, and this was difficult for that very reason because we obviously all know that one as an artist also has his challenges. So this, I don't know if this is meant to perfectly capture one's art style, but there are some strange things, some things that don't quite sync up with the legs and the shoes and stuff. That said, we just heard Jackie talking about some of the backgrounds and lack of backgrounds in the past two pieces. And for the artists watching this, I think this is a perfect example of how you can always have a background and make it work for you. So this is no background, this is no building, this is no wall, this is no environment. This is just a really clever and accurate depiction of how the stylistic approach has been to the anime from Mob Psycho 100. This looks perfectly at home with what the anime would look like, and love it, absolutely love it. And it was, you can tell it was all rendered by the artist. Really like this. This is really well done. Couldn't agree with you more. Just thought this was really cool. The opponent, Ovo the artist, I think this is Fire Force.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Okay, yeah. I've actually started reading that on my Kindle. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the pose was really cool that they tried to do. They tried to imitate the main character's style of like fighting fire with his feet, or that he can produce fire with his feet. It's a gender bent version of that character. I'm not familiar
Race
with the
It's a
entire
race
story. Erasement.
Race-
God,
yeah,
we
race-
don't get it confused, yeah.
That's the male character.
Yeah, no, it's a male.
So it's a race bit.
Yeah, a race butt. I'm not sure if the uniform was meant to be changed that much, or I'm not super familiar with it.
I thought the same thing. I assume he's trying to stylistically alter the look of it because of the flame, so everything just kind of has this washed out appearance. Because you're right, like that's not at all the costume. The costume has those bright blue lines and stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think he did whoever the artist is, he or she did a good job trying to blend some of the colors in the fire to really give it this ethereal look. I think maybe the edges of the fire are a little too hard, but that it's always a challenging thing to draw fire elements and stuff like that. But I think they did a pretty good job here.
I like this piece quite a bit. I have the same challenges that you do. I think that some of it, is some of the choices, are a bit take me out of it just a bit. The head looks a little strange with the body. The costume not looking accurate is a bit strange, but the vibrancy of the color just really grabs me. The same way that the previous piece from Amani, the anatomy looked a little off, but then just the depiction of everything with the effects and the logo background and the texture of that really makes that thing pop. So yeah, so it looks really cool. If that's a training uniform per the chat room, then that's cool. Again, I would rather see. I would have loved to have seen the regular costume just because again that bright blue just really captures. But I get the idea here of the flame just coloring the entire piece and going for that deep orange, red, yellow vibrancy. I think that's a really clever choice to make. And it's cool. It's a really cool piece. I think this is going to be a tough challenge. I think both these artists made some choices that were really inspired, and it's going to come down to which one inspired more. Next up, we have. I'm going to stay with you, Morgan.
Sure.
All right. Next up, we have there was only one artwork. The other person didn't submit. Sakayume Ikunubo. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is Bleach. This is the little boy Bleach, right?
Little boy. Or something. We used him as one of the promo images at the top of the page. Him versus
Whyt. Who is this?
I think this is a Hitsugaya, Toshiro Hitsugaya. It's kind of like one of the short captains in a group within Bleach. So this is a gender bend. I think this is a girl version of him. This one looks a little more happy because the character is usually not one to smile or be shy or anything like that. But this seems like a gender bend.
Okay. All right. So what do you make of this, Morgan?
Well, the character I think is really well drawn. I like a lot of the shading techniques that they used. I think the proportion of the head is a little bit big. It's obviously kind of an odd pose that they're doing, twisting their neck like that. But compared to like the shoulders and stuff, it just seems a little out of scale. Background's not bad. Again, this was a very minimalist background that I think it works well with just showing the character on the front. I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think so. There are two things I like about this, and one thing I don't like about it. Two things I don't like about it. So sequel, I like the hair that's like we were talking about clothing earlier. The like you can see the wrinkles in the clothes. It really captures it well. I think this does a good job of both the wrinkles in the clothes as well as the hair. I think the hair is, very distinctive, and I think that character, the male version, had very distinctive hair as well. So that seems apropos. I don't like the lack of background. I agree. I think this is one where there's not enough dynamism going on with the core image for the lack of background to really be stark and therefore let the character really sing. And then likewise, the sword just doesn't seem to be really involved with the person. Like I know that he's touching it or she's touching it, but it just goes off the bottom of the page. Like that her feet clearly are up higher, so the perspective is all wrong, and that just kind of takes me out of it a little bit. But all in all, I mean, it's not a bad image. I certainly love the facial expression, the hair, the clothes. I love I love the fact that he's capturing her from the back. I think it's kind of just a cool, dramatic sort of look. But again, not strong enough, I think, to justify the decision to not have a background. And the sword again just really seems misplaced. But yeah, not bad at all. Not bad. All right, final image here. I'm gonna go to you, Whyt. Final image in my group of death for Clock Striker. It's Happy Go Sketchy versus Jordan Draws something 99. Happy Go Sketchy. Whyt, did you ever think you would live to see? I don't know. Again, what we saw earlier, I don't know if that was meant to be a black light Yagami or L. I don't know what that was meant to be because that afro was insane. But did you ever think you'd live to see a female Rook?
Yeah, man. You know, this is working for me. You feel me? So overall, this is obviously Ryuk holding the Death Note, throwing the apple in the air. The rendering, I think the rendering is one of those things where, you know, the creator knows they're in a tournament, so they're really going all out with the lighting and the way they're putting things together. So I can always appreciate that. Pretty clear what the character is. Kind of looks like Morbius from Marvel.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
I like the take here. I like the slight change in the hair. There's a little more going on there. Some of the fingers could use a little work. Even though they worked, I can tell that they worked on the rendering and the painting. But you know, it could be better. But I think it's still pretty good. Wish there's a little more shine on the apple, like the part where the apple is blocking part of the face. I feel like that could be rendered a whole lot better. Maybe you could have rendered it on a separate layer. But I do appreciate what they put together here. Overall, you know, I think most of the pieces that were in this round, they've been really good. And I think, you know, this is part of it, but obviously could use some improvements here and there.
Yeah, I think there's the picky part, and then there's the fan part. The fan part, of course, like you said, everything you said, I like the pose for the most part. I like the kind of just the kind of ominous nature of Rook, the way depicted here, the way the face is staring at you, the apples in the way. If you've ever read Death Note, then you know that there is no gender to the Shinigamis. They expressly talk about the fact they're neither male or female. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I was like, I don't know if Rook would like that. Gender bending Rook is crazy. Like, you know, there is no gender to those characters. So it's interesting. I mean, you could force a gender, I guess, but that's kind of what made them so unique is that they didn't have normal bone structures. They always had this kind of hunched over look. And then they just don't have any gender. But I do agree. I like some of the lighting here is just provides a sort of ominous feel to it. And I think that's really effective. I don't quite know what's going on in the background with that. What we look like, I guess it's coming from the Shinigami world, but there's a lot of ominousness here that I think really works well in his favor, considering the character. So that part really impressed me. They're up against Jordan Draws, which I did not realize that this was what this was, but this is Kimetsu no Yaiba, Tanjiro. Again, when you depict kind of like the earlier image that we saw, when you choose to depict the character and you know, it's not illustrated the same way that the artist would. It's hard because that art style is so specific to that series, kind of like One Piece a little bit. And the character designs, frankly, are not that dramatic. I mean, Kimetsu no Yaiba gets I think rightfully criticized for it's not particularly ambitious. You know, the story's not ambitious that much. The character designs really are not at all ambitious. And so, you know, the anime, you know, truly accelerated the success of it. But regardless, I did not realize this was Tanjiro. Someone pointed it out to me, and I was like, "Oh, okay." But I do like it. I think it's really. I mean, it's obviously a dynamic image. What did you make of this?
Yeah, another dynamic piece. I like the coloring. My first instinct when I first saw, I thought was that a lightsaber. To be honest.
Same here.
So I wasn't. It took me a minute too before I was. It was Tanjiro. Like the scar of the head was saying Tanjiro, and then there's some other scenes within the anime that make you go that route. But initially, definitely wasn't thinking that. But the painting, again, there's some parts that could be rendered clearer so we know what's going on, like the hand holding the sword and, you know, just the way that's rendered could be better. But overall, it just gives off a very nicely painted vibe. and like the atmosphere and just the lighting of everything, I think works very well. So, this is a piece that I think looks, at first glance, looks really good, but when you dig deeper, you can start to see a couple errors here and there. I don't know what the clothing. I'm not sure why it's so different. Like with the dark gloves, maybe I'm missing something. Then the background, the way the background is painted, I'm guessing it reminds me of a forest, but the closer you look at it, it seems a little more abstract. But overall, like I said, I think the colors really help this illustration and really help bring it to life, and that's why ultimately I really like it. The lighting and just the way everything is rendered. So good piece for me. I just wish maybe a couple things were clear. If you remove that scar at the top of his head, I don't think anybody would go Demon Slayer, or at least most people won't. At least I know I wouldn't.
There's a character in Star Wars and some of the old Star Wars stuff called Mara Jade. That's who I initially thought it was. Because, of course, when we first get these things, folks, when it comes in, that's why people have to label them correctly, because we first get them in, we're just piling through lots of images. They all go into a bucket, and then we kind of have to work to separate them and put them in the right groups and so forth. So I thought it was Mara Jade from Star Wars. That's what the first thing I thought. I thought it was a lightsaber. I thought it was Mara Jade. And then I was like, oh, yeah, we didn't do a Star Wars thing. And then I had to, and then if someone later pointed out to me, no, this is Kimetsu no Yaiba. I think it's great. I think it's one of my favorite pieces in the piece. I get everything you're saying. I still think it's one of the better pieces in the entire tournament. It's dramatic. The lighting is really strong with it. The background is suitably abstract. I think it's probably one of the best pieces in the tournament for me thus far. All right, so that is the group of death, and I'm happy with that. And we'll talk about some other things to keep an eye out for. But for right now, let's get to this final group. This is Team Saigami, and we're going to begin with the lovely Jackie. And Jackie, are you ready?
Yep, ready to go.
All right, we got Impy J versus Scribbling Joe. Impy J. Now, I'm sorry. Whoops, my bad. I totally forgot. I'm tired. Totally forgot. All right. So one of the things that we do, of course, when we do these new teams, we talk about what the thing is. So it's video game crossovers. This is mobile game characters versus console game characters. So think mobile games, Angry Bird, Asphalt, Fortnite, versus any console game, Halo, Street Fighter, Cuphead, Super Nintendo, you name it, or Super Mario, so on and so forth. So with that being said, let's get back to it. We had Impy J, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know who these characters, I know one of the characters is. Do you know who this is?
Yeah, so I think the one on the left is from Beyblade, but I don't know the one on the right. Maybe it could be Mega Man. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's Mega Man X. That's Mega Man X on the right.
Oh, okay. That was a good guess.
Or Mega Man, well, I'm not sure. I think it's Z. I think anyway, it's one of the Mega Man characters. But yeah, I didn't know who the one on the left was. So you think that's Beyblade?
Yeah, because of the style. I've seen a little bit of the Beyblade before. I think it looks like the Beyblade character. Also, the pants, it looks like his pants read Blade. So I'm thinking it's Beyblade. But I know Beyblade has to do with like a game. It doesn't really have anything to do with actual swords. So I could be wrong, but
we'll find out. So what did you think of the piece?
I think this piece is probably one of the best that I've seen in the competition. Just everything about it is really good. It was drawn really well. The colors are obviously working to this artist's favor. Everything is just very saturated, not overly saturated, but just enough that everything pops. I like the poses, and I think the anatomy is pretty good. And yeah, I really like the effects of everything that they added, like the lightning and like the little sparks that they're having in contact with each other. But overall, this is
so you like this piece a lot, then?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, just to be fair, I think the only thing I'd say maybe, let's see. Um, maybe something in the background. I can't. I don't really know. I don't really think there's a whole lot to improve with this one.
No, I don't think there's anything improved. I mean, I think this is easily one of the best from the tournament first round. I think the color MPJ from last year, if those of you remember, she got really far in the tournament last year. Female creator, really talented, excellent use of color. One of the criticisms to last year that we had of her was that she would do this weird thing with her color where she kept putting like these. This kind of reminded me of J.J. Abrams. If you guys ever watch his movies, he puts like these strobe effects in. If you ever go watch a J.J. Abrams movie, you'll see like he'll have this lens flare that just comes out of nowhere, and it's cool. It makes it look really cool, but it's like you see it so frequently, it always kind of robs you of like why, like you see like why is this in here? She would have some of those things sometimes. This kind of haze of pop up in her coloring. This doesn't have any of that. I love the sparks and the effects going on with it. The color iteration is so granular that everything has attention to detail and has depth to it. A really, really solid piece. Great piece. I don't think it needs a background. It's all packed. It's a really, really great piece. Scribbling Joe has a series. I know one of them. I don't know the other one. Ire versus Kratos. Do you know what the Ire is from?
I don't. I think it's a mobile game, but I know Kratos.
Yeah, it's God of War. Yeah. So what do you make of this piece?
I think it's cool. I like the fire in the background and how they're just like getting ready to duke it out. I think they would make pretty good opponents in a battle, considering like the weapons that they have. I also like the expression on Kratos' face. I think it looks realistic. It's not like overly exaggerated. I like that. I think they did a good job with the anatomy. The arms are a little wonky. For Kratos specifically, the guy for Ire, his arms look decent. So just a couple little anatomy things, but I think it's a good image. I would have again, they put the title of the series in the picture. I don't think they needed to do that, but in this specific case, since probably a number of us aren't familiar with Ire, I think it helps us, like
It doesn't help at all. I was curious to say, like,
yeah.
I disagree. Like, it doesn't help at all. Like, if you're gonna do it, then post the actual name of the series. Like, I don't know who Ire is, so Kratos. That's not the name of the game. It's God of War. So put
That's
you
true.
know put Clash of Clans, which I don't know if that's what it is. Clash of Clans versus God of War. Then if you're gonna do it there, because for what I will say is that there's wasted space up there. So like there's nothing up there. So I don't mind the logos there, but at least put logos that would actually make a difference in terms of our understanding of it. I like the rendering of the cute characters. The anatomy, of course, I think Kratos is fine, actually. He doesn't bother me at all. And I do get a sense very similar to what I had with the Deathstroke versus Dr. Doom piece. This feels like a classic sort of image where the artwork maybe wasn't as sophisticated as some other stuff you might see. So this stuff here I like. This reminds me of an artist named Jim Starlin, actually, who was really big back in the 80s. Not exactly, but similar. I know what you're talking about, the arms. Certainly the one that's closer to the Iron guy, that arm and that whole thing seems odd. But for the most part, I think it's rendered fairly well. His energy comes across well. The guy Ire, that leg, that's what throws me off. That leg where that's going forward is great. The other leg, completely wrong. Like it's just like a pygmy leg. That shouldn't be there. So there's some anatomy things here that are kind of troubling with this piece. But I do like the two characters chosen. I wish I knew who the other character was. I like the depiction of their armaments. I think a lot of that stuff came across really well. The weapons, both of them look sufficiently angry, so like they should be going to war. So I think it's a cool piece. I wish it was a bit more expressive in a couple of areas and a bit more accurate in terms of anatomy. But I think this artist, if they were trying to go for emotion with it, they captured that pretty well. The background as well could have been, the flame could have been a little bit bigger, a little bit more dramatic, but not bad at all. All right, next up we got Morgan. Are you ready?
Yep.
We got Red Zen Designs versus Shauna Chups. Oh wow! I may have messed it up there. What happened here? Did we lose Morgan? What happened? You guys still hear me? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. All right.
Can you hear me now?
Are you there? All right, we hear you
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Okay.
Don't know. It's all good. Right now, I got to see why my screen's not showing. Why is it not showing the image? Oh, it does. It is showing it. Okay, I guess something happened. I don't know.
Yeah, I see it on the screen, but I've got it pulled up elsewhere if I need.
There we go. All right. Okay, what do you make of Red Zen Designs?
Yeah, no, I so this is Pokemon versus Digimon, were the two games that they pitted against each other. I had to quickly look because there is actually a Pikachu that has like spiky hair that's not Sparky, I don't think, because the character doesn't look the same as his trainer. So I'm not sure if they just decided to do different renditions of the two human characters, but I think the perspective and their proportion, or like the way that the characters are walking toward each other, is really cool. It kind of shows the tension that's happening before this epic fight between these two different digital monsters. But I think it would have been nice to see more of the monsters themselves, because again, the characters don't look like anything from the original series, so I don't know why they're kind of the focal point rather than Pikachu and whichever the other Digimon monster is.
That's a good point. I will say that I find both characters are rendered pretty well, actually. I mean, I actually think the monsters are the weakest part of it. I think the humans are actually rendered pretty nicely.
No, I definitely agree. I didn't say that they weren't rendered well. I just think that maybe they didn't need to be the focal point. Like the narrative should probably be on the monsters battling themselves.
That's fair. Yeah, missed choices, but that's a fair criticism. So anything else in this piece, real quickly, before we move on to the next one?
Nope.
Yeah, I like this. Again, I think the monsters are to your point, Morgan. I think the monsters for me are the weakest part of this. Whyt said this is Pokemon Go, so therefore we get the mobile version of Pokemon. I think the humans actually come across really well in it, so that part actually impressed me. You could have just shown me these two, and I would have been like, "Also, that's a suitably dramatic showdown of two characters who I don't know who they are." So it's interesting. I'm not a fan of either property. I don't really play Pokemon games, and I've never seen Digimon in my life except for promos and stuff. So it's interesting on that end, but I do like the dramatic nature. I think as a showdown, it's one of the more interesting dramatic showdown images. The next one is one of my favorite of the entire tournament, and Chuck. This is Nier Automata versus, I think, Angry Birds, and I really like this. I don't know why.
No, I think it's really well done too. Obviously, the shading style or the techniques that they used in illustrating these characters looks really good. The perspective is really cool to see this big giant pig head in the background, and then you've got close up behind Nier getting ready to grab her sword. So that was a really nice touch. I think some of the background elements, I like the little touches of including stuff from the Angry Birds game, but I don't know if maybe like the ground itself could have been rendered a little bit better since it is so close to the foreground. But yeah, no, otherwise I really like the narrative here in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what is going on here. It just looks really cool. I mean, it's I love Nier Automata. I like Nier Automata is such a distinctive character. There are lots of ways to depict her. She's very popular. To depict her from the back, to have her kind of in the near foreground. There's an item that's in the foreground that's kind of blurred out a little bit, so we're getting a piece of her back. It's dramatic. It's a cinematic, and then have the Angry Bird in the background. Considering how realistic Nier Automata is typically rendered, to then have this very cartoony looking thing behind it, it just has a really anachronistic feel to it. I just really like this piece. I think it's just truly imaginative, and I like that quite a bit. So this is a cool piece. For me, one of the stronger pieces here. All right, next up, we're going to go to Whyt for this one. It's Call Me Naka versus Ugly Artist Jibs. So you ready, Whyt?
Yeah.
Call Me Naka. I'm not sure. I think this is Death Stranding, whatever that series was called.
Yeah, Death Stranding and Pokemon, and then you have some Pokemon in the back. I believe maybe that was that Mewtwo, whatever, as one of the kind of ghost type figures in Death Stranding. Yeah, one of those confusing video games, but definitely I like the rendering here. I definitely like the lighting here as well. And this does, the setting and the background is very reminiscent of one of the settings that you would see, or backgrounds you would see in the video game. Definitely like the attention to detail, and the way the character design is put together. So this overall is a strong piece. Even the little note at the top, I think, is very reminiscent of the video game. The way the piece is, the composition of the piece is put together, I think it's pretty, straightforward, normal. It could have been a little more interesting, but I don't think it takes away anything from the piece overall. I like the atmosphere and the smoke in the background, like the rain, which is also part of the video game as well. I think rainfall, well, not rain, whatever it's called, timefall or something like that. So overall, thumbs up for me.
Never played the game. Love the image. It reminds me of, I don't know if Call Me Knock is European. I think they're Hungarian. This feels very European. Feels very European. Like this is like 2000 AD type of like really cool, art and story. So it was just a cool piece to me. I really enjoyed it. I love the moodiness of it. I love the, not a game I'm not familiar with or care about, but I just love the feel of this entire image. Very different artists are up against here with Ugly Artist Jib. This is a very different piece. And I'm not sure what it is actually. So what is this, you think? Fortnite. It says Fortnite and Raid Shadow Legends. That's it. Raid Shadow Legends versus Fortnite. So there you go. So I assume one of those is console, one of those is mobile. I think Raid is mobile, if I'm not mistaken. Fortnite certainly got its popularity because of it being able to be played by mobile. But either way, what do you make of this piece? It's more of a comedic piece, kind of a fun comedic piece.
Yeah, Raid is definitely mobile, and Fortnite you could say is console at the PlayStation or wherever you play it. So I'm guessing Fortnite's the console here. So the illustration really well put together. I like the sunlight hitting them, but overall the place, kind of the atmosphere looks pretty cold and chill. I like the comedic aspect of these characters kind of hitting each other, very anime. I do like the character designs. I think they're very loyal to the originals. And the rendering and line work and coloring overall, I think, is pretty good overall. And
yeah, first of all, I don't know how loyal these are to the character design. The character designs are just standard CG character designs. I don't know if they're, Fortnite mix and match. It's not like
But like for Raid,
yeah, I don't know Raid, but this just strikes me as this artist depicting whatever he's drawing, and it just looks really cool. I think it's distinctive. It's got style to it. I love the energy of it. I love the fact that he didn't put pupils in. It just makes it seem more fun and cartoonish and kind of over the top, which is kind of what he's going for. So I think, again, as we say a lot, choices. I think this is some really interesting choices because it's a fun piece, and it's an interesting battle because this is fun and it's rendered well to be fun, and then the Call Me Naka piece is really serious, even though it's based on a very silly idea, Pokemon and Death Stranding, which Death Stranding I would say is a silly game, but it's very silly, but it's rendered so specifically, so dramatically that I think it's an interesting challenge between two really solid artists with really good command of what they're trying to do, and it's just what floats your boat, really. Okay, all right. So we're gonna race through these because we're really going a lot longer than we intended to. So next up, we've got Courage art. They did not have a component in this round. They didn't submit it, so we're just gonna look at Courage art's work, and I'm gonna go back to Jackie on this one. So Jackie, what did you make of Courage art here? You know who these are.
I don't know who the human is, but I know that the characters below are from Angry Birds.
So that's Tekken. That's the game Tekken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Kazuya, I think his name is Kazuya or something like that.
But
so what do you make of this piece?
Devil Jin.
Devil Jin, okay. I thought that. Wait, the son can do it too. I think it was the dad and the son can both do it. I think all three of them can do it, but the grandpa.
Well, the Devil Jin is the only one with the black wings and then the tattoos, and that's definitely Devil Jin.
Okay. So what do you make of this piece, Jackie?
I really like it. I love how dramatic it is, and I love the expression on the bird's face. They're all freaked out because the guy's about to like demolish them. Um, I think the colors are really good. The bright colors of the purple go really well against all of the other kind of faded colors. I also really appreciate how um, they chose a background to go with the overall style of the piece. I think this artist has done work for Saturday M before, as Ben has artist, but they
I don't
really
think I don't think so. They were in last year's tournament, but they haven't
mm,
done any work for them.
yeah, I remember what they did last year. But this specific piece, they've improved with it. I think they did a good job.
Yeah, no, well, yeah. So this artist never worked for us before, never done any work for us, but they were in last year's tournament, and I couldn't. I think this artist is from Iraq, but I could be mistaken. Fantastic. The blur lines that are going on a little bit with the three angry birds, captures the hilarity of them trying to get the hell out of there. I love the moodiness of the background piece. I mean, this is a really solid, dramatic and fun piece. I like this a lot. So sorry if you guys may hear a lot of noise. My dog, she's ticked off that I'm taking so long, so she's tearing up her dog bed. All right, next up we're gonna go back to Morgan. You ready, Morgan?
Yep.
All right, we got Gary Lytle versus Genjex. Gary Lytle. I'm not sure. I know one of the properties. I don't know what the other property is. What is this? This is Witcher, right?
I was almost going to say Metal Gear Solid, but that might have been because of the face. I didn't recognize the outfit, so you could be correct. It might be Witcher.
Yeah, sword, so.
The other one is Clash of Clans. It's a mobile game, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. So what do you make of this piece?
Well, I think it's an interesting matchup. I've not played either of those games, but they definitely both have a very interesting style to them. Gary's very good with traditional art. We've seen his work before. I think he put a lot of great detail in the Witcher character in particular. I can't remember, Geralt. The background's a little bit messy, but I think that actually kind of works in his favor when you consider that it contrasts with a lot of the finer detail in the foreground with the characters. I like that he kept it limited to a very specific color palette.
Yeah.
And I like the narrative that's going on too, the action of these different characters fighting Geralt.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of Gary Lytle's stuff. I've seen him. I follow him, kind of like Nowhere Arts. I followed both of them. They both have been in previous tournaments. They've never gotten into the final 8, but I think both of them are super talented. I think Gary's work, to your point, has improved. I love the attention he takes to detail. Gary has strengths. He's got weaknesses, but what I love about Gary is that his strengths are really good strengths that he continues to develop, and his weaknesses he continues to work on to improve. There's a stiffness to this, to be sure, but the same way that I'm a sucker for clean line work. Gary's not a clean line work artist, but there's a level of just detail and sketchiness to Gary's work that just, for some reason, just always impresses me. It always shows effort, and an artist who's really putting in effort, I think, is always an impressive subjective aspect of art when you can see the person really put work into it. So I love this piece from Gary, but he's got a good challenge because it challenges again some of the things that Gary doesn't do. Either the opposite of what Gary does from Genjex, which is really simple line work. This is simple line work. It's depicting things, but it's very, very simple how it does it. Angry Birds versus Mario. What do you make of this?
So it's not Angry Birds. It's actually called Flappy Bird, and
Flappy Bird. My bad.
It works really well in this matchup because in Flappy Bird, the goal is to fly between gaps in these green pipes that are on the screen. It almost looks like a game that would belong in the Mario world. So it's kind of good that they teamed it up with Mario in this aspect. That works thematically for me. I think that the coloring, like you said, it's very simple line work, and the coloring really complements it. It's muted, but it's still got kind of a vibrancy to it. The tap part might be kind of weird that's in the middle of the screen. I like the verses part there. I think that this was overall a very clean image. Again, I think thematically and narrative wise, those were my favorite parts of this image.
I like it too. I didn't catch the Flappy Bird. I remember the game Flappy Bird. I forgot about it. Now that you mention it, and then your excellent commentary about the fact that this fits the Mario game itself. Again, that's a deep cut for young people who probably don't really play the Mario games, at least the old ones. But you're totally right. That would totally fit in that's very similar to the old school Mario game. I like the way Mario is kind of depicted at the top of the thing. He's kind of pointing, kind of, kind of like it's not quite the normal. It kind of comes more like Wario a little bit. That pose seems more Wario-ish. But I do like it. I do like as well the color. It's very pastel-y, but I love it. I love the simplicity of the line work. I'm just a sucker for minimalism. So it is it's an interesting comparison between that and Gary. That's what I think it makes this matchup really difficult. All right, let me go back to Jackie, and then we're going to be wrapping up here with the last interest. So, folks, we're going to be going quick. So, to my artists, please cut down on trying to hum and haw your way through this. Just make it make it simple. You like it or you don't. We want to try to get through this. We've got a lot of stuff to get through at the end. Next up, we've got Flabbergaster again. Jackie, Flabbergaster versus Cyonex Neon. So, what did you make of Flabbergaster?
So at first I didn't recognize one, I think one of them is Street Sesh, and then the top one is obviously Pokemon Go. But I really like the colors. I like the setting that they're in and they're facing each other. I think they colored it really well. It looks like they didn't add a whole lot of detail to like the clothing and the characters. It's a very simple drawing, the design, but it works. I think it looks great.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. I wasn't, I didn't catch the Pokemon Go, the Pokemon Sword and Shield. I didn't catch either of that. This kind of reminds me of the artwork, the image we talked about a few minutes ago between Digimon and Pokemon Go, and I said the characters define that piece because they were just dramatic, and this one unfortunately doesn't quite capture the same vibe to me. I would have preferred to see the monsters here because I just don't see the dramatic element of the characters here. The dramatic element here is more in the Go versus Shield or Sword or Shield thing,
That's
and
true.
it's just not enough for me to kind of get into this from that perspective. So it's interesting. I can't say I fully that this one captures me the way the other image did. Next, their opponent here, Cyonex Neon. This is an interesting one. Subway Surfers, which I'm not familiar with, versus Overwatch, which of course is kind of the Capcom version, not a Capcom game, but it kind of feels like a Street Fighter. If Street Fighter was was a FPS. So very good character designs. This one is headshots. So I don't know. What do you make of this? Do you recognize these characters?
Um, I'm not familiar with either of the series. I recognize Overwatch. I've watched a little bit of it, but I'm not quite familiar with it. I think this is a charming image. I really like how happy the characters look. And I think this was colored with colored pencil and then like a mix of markers because I could see kind of mixed media going on here. But I think it's okay. I would have liked maybe to see something going on in the background. Um, but I know they used a whole bunch of dots, so I think it's good.
Yeah. So both these are interesting. I think it's gonna be an interesting matchup because this one, like, I love the faces here. I really like the faces here. I don't see Overwatch in this at all, but I do love the faces here. This was colored in marker. Again, I can see some of those streak marks in the markers, so not quite the level of marker usage that kind of comes through cleanly, but it's still really expressive. I really like that a lot. That said, in the last piece, like I said, not nearly as dramatic as I would like, but this is one of those examples, folks, of heavy line work. Like the line work here is solid, so it's not like exactly where the barrier are for all the characters and so forth. And that actually, again, it's simplistic. Like I said, I like subtle line work where it's just really easy and really clean. This is that just with heavy line work, but still, the ink lines are very strong. But there's an appeal to that, and I do like the vibrancy of the Go versus sword shield. I just wish that there was more dramatic element with the characters, not with the logo stuff. But both these pieces are interesting because they both do things differently than the choices that I would have thought you would have gone with. It is interesting, I'll say that. All right, so next up we've got Devil May Cray art versus Nat Q art. So Devil May Cray art, I'm going to be going to Whyt Manga on that one. So Devil May Cray art, I think we all recognize what this is. Let's see if this comes up. Here we go. This is Kingdom Hearts versus, I don't know what that is. What's the other one, Whyt?
No idea. I know that's Kingdom Heart, but looking at that, I'm not sure exactly what that is. I'm sure people let us know in the comment section. Say Kingdom Hearts, so it has to be a mobile game of some sorts. But just going with the piece before we come in with the answers. I think the illustration looks well rendered, easily, properly colored. I like the dynamic aspect where one character is closer to the screen or camera versus the other. Dynamic poses. It looks really professional. This looks really good. I like the colors in the sky and just overall the way the colors are rendered for the backgrounds. The color choices and that creamy sky seems very Kingdom Hearts. Maybe part of the trees could be rendered a little better. But overall, I like the piece and I like the illustration. I think people are saying, let me see if anybody says anything. Yeah, say Kingdom Hearts, basically Kingdom Hearts Mobile and Kingdom Hearts. So it's basically just Kingdom Hearts both because I wanted to say the same thing because they have very similar weapons. But overall, I like the piece. I like the line work. I like the coloring. I like the colorful sky. I like the way your positions and the composition. The trees could be a little better, but thumbs up for me.
I totally agree. I like the line work a lot. I love that the two art styles are very distinctive of each character. I didn't know there was a Kingdom Hearts mobile game. I guess I should have known that, but I do like the way that the main character, I think his name is Sora, looks. It's just a very specific style, very clean. Just was impressed with this piece. Trees don't bother me as much because I feel like there's a stylistic approach going on with the background. I mean, the clouds don't make any sense either, so it fits what it is. But I do like the perspective. I just love the line work, really, really solid. Nat Q, this is an interesting one. That's all I can say. This and the last two are going to be interesting. This one is what do you think this is?
This is Fruit Ninja and Metal Gear Rising. So that's Raiden from Metal Gear.
Okay, I was gonna ask if that was Raiden. Okay, so that's Raiden.
Yeah, so I like this one. I like this one a lot. I like the position of everything. I like the fade in the backgrounds and how it's kind of getting, fading to white at the top so we can clearly see like that motion and more of the character. We can focus on the character's head. Like everything about this piece is really good. And the fact that it's traditional art kind of just shows it. You don't have to be digital all the time. So I really like this piece. I think the anatomy of Raiden could be a little better, but I really like how everything is put together with the blues and the reds and the greens. Even the reds and the greens have that blue tint on them, so everything still feels together. I think I like the line variation of how the lines of the watermelons are thicker versus the lines of Raiden, and you can really see the swing. So this is actually one of my favorite pieces.
Yeah, Nat Q was in last year's tournament. He's been in some other art contests we've done. He is one of my favorite artists. I follow him as well. He has a really distinctive style. He's a true traditional artist. He renders things in a very true, dynamic, tactile way. And I didn't realize it was Raiden. Like I said, I wasn't sure who it was, but I did love the watermelon split. I thought that was really cool. And I agree with you as well. Just the artistry of it in terms of using limited color to capture the dynamism between both different genres, both different icons of gaming. I thought were really cool. It's really cool. His figure does make you wonder because I don't know what's going on with his right arm, his left arm, I mean, or that leg, like that one leg. I don't know the leg. So I don't know if he was in a battle. I don't know if the watermelon tore his ass up. I don't know.
Yeah. That's just the anatomy of the anatomy of Raiden in some areas is where the piece kind of loses some points, but overall we kind of get it and it's really good. There's also something very silly that I could see Metal Gear doing for one of their like
very true
side parts of the video game. They have like somebody in an orange cart, like not in a crate. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. That's a very good point. Yeah. All right, this last matchup here in Team Sagami is 3THN versus ASHESK. You can't make this up. The folks whose names are just names and just letters. I mean, this is The Last of Us versus, I guess, a jetpack game. Morgan, this is going to go to you. What do you think this is?
Yeah, I didn't know what the jetpack game was. I like the attempt to make the character falling forward toward the screen. Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, the characters they're pretty well drawn. I guess it's hard to know who that other character is, and part of the jetpack is not really rendered very well. And the detail from the explosion is a little weak, but it otherwise wasn't a bad attempt.
Well, I mean, as again, you're gonna hear me say throughout this entire tournament, folks, it's all about the choices that you make. This artist can render characters perfectly. I mean, the rendering of the older guy in Last of Us, the girl in Last of Us, including the fact that she's kind of bow-legged, the jetpack guy, who I don't know what game that is, but I mean, all these characters are rendered perfectly. The weird monster from Last of Us and so forth, I mean, he's falling backwards and being attacked. That's rendered pretty well. The issue here is just, again, perspective, shot, background, like, what could have made this piece more dramatic and more emphatic? And that's the question, because you never know who you're going to go up against. And I think it's a good example of who their artists that they're going up against. They chose to render something really stark, and it really just going to come down to choice. But the choices here, for me, the rendering of the characters here is probably some of the best that's been in the entire tournament today, because the characters all look completely anatomically correct. The perspectives are right. The body weights are right. Everything. I mean, this character's got a jetpack on his back, and it's kind of got him. He's you can feel the gravity on him. You can feel the kind of nature of the older character. He's just kind of like okay, what's going on here? And I think it's the rendering of the characters are great on this piece. Fantastic. The only thing that bothers me in terms of just like I wish there was more to it are the shoes for the jetpack guy. That's kind of odd, but otherwise than that, though, I think it's a really solid rendering piece. The ASHESK artist, this piece is a crossover with God of War. And I don't know what that is. The God of War is going up against. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what the other game was either. I definitely recognized God of War or Kratos and Boy. This one, I mean, I actually really liked the background on this one. I think that the detail that was put into the trees and the lighting elements, kind of backlighting that character at the top, I think was a really nice touch. The characters in the foreground, I think, could have been rendered a little bit better. They sort of blend in with the background. Overall, it's a bit muddy and dark, so there's some details that I feel like I'm losing, and that might have helped kind of tell us more about what the other game was or what's going on. But again, I definitely like this this kind of scene that's being set up, the characters coming toward this larger figure and preparing for a fight.
Agreed. I wish, and I'm sure we'll find out what game this is, because I'll talk in a minute when we do our votes here as to how that can impact the score. But that being said, though, I think you got two challenges here. Again, 3THN, I like the rendering of the human characters in there. I thought the rendering was really fantastic. All the human characters all had the body language was complete in each one of those characters. In this one, the rendering is not so much the thing here. It's just more of the dramatic, the kind of cinematic quality of it, the choices made with the background, the camera angle, the color, all of it just has this very foreboding, kind of ominous feel to it. We know Kratos and his boy are up against a really big challenge with this. I guess it's a giant. I don't know, but this is a strong piece. Both these are strong pieces. It's gonna be a strong matchup. So, all right, folks, that concludes Team Saigami. That is it. Now we're gonna take a final 5-minute break. And when we return, we're going to talk about our votes. You're going to find out who we voted for. Remember, our votes carry 15 points each. It can truly sway a person's standing in the tournament. for this first round, and then we're going to talk about round two, and we're going to talk about the alternates tournament. But we're going to be wrapping this thing up, folks, in 10 minutes. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then it's going to be a sharp 10-minute wrap up. No if, and, or buts to it. So stay with us. Please enjoy this screen and contemplate supporting our app. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Just go to the iOS and Apple Store, Apple App Store, or the Android Play Store, and download Saturday AM Global Comics and Manga app. We'll be right back, folks. right, guys, we're back, and this is Saturday AM, the 2020 March Art Madness, the world's toughest art contest. Now, you just sat with us for a couple of hours, which I cannot believe it took a couple of hours, but it did. We went through our 4 teams, Apple Black, Bully Eater, Sagami, and Clock Striker. You got to see all the matchups in their glory. We commented on all of them. Now we're going to give our votes. But before we do that, I want to tell you real quickly about our alternates contest. Now we have an alternates contest happening on Anime Motivation's website. This is for another group of artists. Some of them may end up in the main tournament over the course of this event. So you can see we've got Team Imlog, we have Team Soulbeat, and we have Team Hammer, featuring the series created by the great Jay Oden. So you can find out who these artists are. You can see the artwork that they created, all at Anime Motivation. It's animemotivation.com. So if you go there, you can vote right now on those artwork. Now, you've got a couple of days for that, so don't feel pressed to have to do that right this second, because, of course, you have just a few more hours up until 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is roughly 2 hours from now, to vote for this tournament, for the March Art Madness 2020 tournament. The winner of this is going to win an iPad device, and we've got some other great prizes coming. Now, again, I just want to reiterate for those of you who participated last year as a finalist last year, we are very thankful that we have been able to put together both our app as a prize, as well as some content from some other companies. So we will be in a position, some of you will be getting a note very soon. We had to get everything set to be coded for our app. So our app will be available to everyone who participates in the 2020 contest this year. And for some of the finalists of the 2019 contest, we'll get a code for a $36 value, 1 full year of the Saturday AM Global Comics app. Also, if you support our Kickstarter, we'll be extending that to our Kickstarter backers as well. Our Kickstarter is coming together. For those of you who supported a couple of years ago, those of you who've paid attention, we've given several comments about the Kickstarter, but let me reiterate them for those who may not have paid attention, that the first year we got everything set up for it, Trump put forth tariffs, and because we did 3 books for the price of 1, some folks don't seem to understand the way Kickstarter works. Kickstarter, you got folks on Kickstarter right now who are raising the money that we raised for 1 book with less pages being printed in the United States. We were doing 3 books for the price of 1, and and the way we thought we could do it is A, we had most of that material already done. B, we're going to print it in China. So when Trump raised the tariffs, any variation in costs becomes a headache. It could literally put us out of business. It could, be a problem for some of the people who would want to get the product, because all of a sudden now they would have to pay an extra fee just to get it into their country. So I know sometimes, folks, these things seem simple. They're not at all. So we worked to do all the work that we had to do, and we've worked really hard these past year. We've got some great partners who are helping us get the books produced. We've got great retail partners, which is why we were doing the books in the first place, who are going to carry them in their stores. But of course, now we have the coronavirus hitting. Nothing has changed. We're still very much in the process of having the books finalized. All the artwork has been updated for the 3 books. Whyt Manga added a completely new set of content into his, as did Andrea Doni. So we are really proud of this package. We're really proud of the work that we put into this. And we know that our true fans are going to be supportive and excited when they receive this package. More information on that will come. Super Saturday Magazine, our first physical magazine, also is on its way. That's coming. We'll have brand new content, including something really special that everyone has been asking about for years. That will be a Super Saturday. And last but not least, of course, again, we have our app. It's out. I'm sorry, our toys. Our toys are coming. And I will show you a sneak peek of what those collectibles look like in just a moment. Now, Spectrum Noir, Clip Studio Paint, we want to give a big shout out to them. If you've not tried Spectrum Noir product, then you're really missing out. You can create gorgeous Copic level marker art for half the price. This image here was rendered by the great Jay Oden, creator of Hammer. Of course, it's telling you to wash your hands for COVID-19. but also it's rendered using these gorgeous markers from Spectrum Noir. Folks, the average Copic level marker or Copic marker costs about anywhere from $6 to $9. You can get top line classique markers from Spectrum Noir for $2.50 to $6. So, or $2.50 to $5. So you get several packs of markers in there. It's a fantastic deal. We're super excited to be partnered with them, and you just can't beat that product. Likewise, if you are creating comics or you work digitally and you want the best full-featured software out there, Clip Studio Paint, our other partner, they are a Japanese company. They're one of the leaders in the space, and we're very honored to be working with them. We got some great things planned with them in the near future. If you want to check out their product, please go on our webpage when you do your voting and hit the link, and you'll be taken to a place where you can purchase or at the very least download a trial for Clip Studio Paint. It is marvelous software. Whyt has a fantastic video on it that he did in conjunction with Jay Oden. So please check them out. You just trust us. If you want to create gorgeous looking comics with no fuss, then if you're working digitally, then you want to use the best software. Clip Studio Paint is one of the top software companies in this space for a reason. So check them out. Some of you may remember them as Manga Studio. All right, let's get down to it, folks. Now is the big question, and that is who won this event. Now, what we're going to do is I'm basically going to just pull up our webpage, and I'm going to go through each of these because I know you guys want to just see this. So we're going to pull up each of these and just run through very quickly who won what. So I want you to bear with me just a moment as I pull up the webpage, and all my group here is ready to give their thoughts. And I'll make one quick point about the things that we're doing here in a moment. Let me pull this page up. Getting ready to go here. You guys are going to see the screen here in just a moment, and we will begin with that. So you guys now see the screen here. All right, this of course is our webpage. This is where you would go, www.saturday-am.com/madness. And in doing so, you will be able to check out all the art and vote on the art. So we're going to begin with the Apple Black group. The matchup between J.R. Vega Art versus Oblivious 334. I'm going to go down the list, and each person will just tell me where they voted. So is everyone ready?
Yep.
Ready, Jackie?
Yeah.
Ready, Whyt?
Yep.
All right. Round one, J.R. Vega Art versus Oblivious 334. How do you vote, Whyt?
Oblivious.
How do you vote, Jackie?
Oblivious.
How do you vote, Morgan?
Oblivious.
I vote J.R. Vega Art. All right. Next up, we have 40 Fingers versus someone who didn't submit. How do you vote, Whyt?
40 Fingers.
How do you vote, Jackie?
40 Fingers.
How do you vote, Morgan?
40 Fingers.
I'm going to say did not submit. No, I'm going to say 40 Fingers. I love this piece. All right. This is a tough one. Quick Draw Chev versus JMV091789. How do you vote, Whyt?
JMV.
How do you vote, Jackie?
Quick Draw.
How do you vote, Morgan?
Quick Draw Chev.
Quick Draw Chev for me as well. All right. Next up, Med Manga versus Studio Hero. How do you vote, Whyt?
Hero.
How do you vote, Jackie?
Studio Hero.
How do you vote, Morgan?
Studio Hero.
Studio Hero for me as well. Clean sweep. All right, next up, we have Hack Wolfen versus Harukami Art. How do you vote, Whyt?
Harukami.
How do you vote, Jackie?
Harakami.
How do you vote, Morgan?
Harakami Art.
Harakami Art for me as well. Clean sweep, although I do still love that old school Hack Wolfen. Next up, Artist Always. Am versus Did Not Submit. I take it everyone voted for Artist Always?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Let's see here. Next up, Kitsune Ren Art versus Antonin Marpekin. How did you vote, Whyt?
Kitsune.
How did you vote, Jackie?
Kitsune.
How did you vote, Morgan?
Kitsune.
Kitsune for me as well. Clean sweep. All right. Last but not least, we have Jarg Art. They ran unopposed. Did anyone not vote for JR Art or whatever? Jarg Art? Did everyone vote for Jarg Art?
Yeah, I think it's safe to skip the do not submits.
Yeah.
I would think so too, but you never know. All right, next up, Team Bully Eater. Updating classic cartoons. First up, Elemental 1996 versus FS Art. How did you vote, Whyt?
FS.
How did you vote, Jackie?
FS.
How did you vote, Morgan?
FS Art.
FS Art for me as well. Clean sweep. Next up, we have Exelon Art versus Jace Art 2. How'd you vote, Whyt?
Exelon.
How'd you vote, Jackie?
Exelon.
How'd you vote, Morgan?
Exelon Art.
Excellent art for me as well. Clean sweep. Next up, we have Mystic Knight 13 versus Elzek. How'd you vote, Whyt?
Mystic Knight.
How'd you vote, Jackie?
Elzek.
How'd you vote, Morgan?
Mystic Knight.
Mystic Knight for me as well. Although I gotta say, I did very much. I'm a fan of Elzek, fan of that piece, but I did go Mystic Knight 13. All right. Next up, we have Tokyo McFly versus Crossmark Arts. How did you vote, Whyt?
Crossmark.
How'd you vote, Jackie?
Crossmark.
How'd you vote, Morgan?
Tokyo McFly.
Tokyo McFly for me as well. All right. Next up, we have Narushiro versus Sir Isaiah. How'd you vote, Whyt?
Sir Isaiah.
How'd you vote, Jackie?
Nebushiro.
How'd you vote, Morgan?
Sir Isaiah.
Nebushiro for me as well. I did like the anime feel to it. So, all right. Next up, we have I Can't Pronounce the Name versus I Can't Pronounce the Name. How'd you vote, Whyt?
T4.
T4. Okay. How'd you vote, Jackie?
T4.
How'd you vote, Morgan?
I can't pronounce the name number 2. T4.
Yeah, T4 for me as well. Clean sweep. All right. Oak and Oats versus Noir.Art. How did you vote, Whyt?
Oak Notes.
How'd you vote, Jackie?
Okanotes.
How'd you vote, Morgan?
Okanotes.
Okanotes for me as well. Clean sweep, although I'm a big fan of Noir Arts, but I think Okanotes really, really did well in this one. This is probably one of my toughest ones here. Gideon Accor versus Jello Studios. How did you vote, Whyt?
Jello.
How'd you vote, Jackie?
Gideon.
How'd you vote, Morgan?
Jello Studios.
Gideon Accor for me. So 2-2. That's going to be a tough one. All right. Team Clock Striker, the group of death. All right. Ammo Cat versus Tyson for free. Whyt, how'd you vote?
Ammo.
How'd you vote, Jackie?
Ammo Cat.
How'd you vote, Morgan?
Ammo Cat.
Ammo Cat for me as well. Clean sweep. Juanes Bourbano versus Yaroshalmi Art. How'd you vote, Whyt?
This was the toughest one.
This is a tough one, yeah.
I think this was a tough one. I went for Juanes, but it's really a toss-up. I went for Juanes.
Okay. How'd you, Jackie? About you?
Also a hard one for me. I like Yerushalmi.
How'd you vote, Morgan?
Yerushalmi Art.
Yeah, I actually agree. I'm with Yerushalmi Art here. Bourbano had me. I was into Bourbano stuff and still think it was really good, but Yerushalmi Art, there was a lot there. And that marker art, I forgot about that when Jackie mentioned. I was like, oh shit, yeah, that guy does great marker art. So yeah. All right, next up, Mano Azumi versus Thero the Kid. Whyt Manga, how'd you vote?
Excuse me. Mano Azumi.
How'd you vote, Jackie?
Mano.
Morgan?
Mano-a-Mano.
Mano-a-Mano for me as well. Clean sweep. Next up, we have Andrelm Art versus Camo 988. How do you vote, Whyt?
Camo.
I know it was I know that cut him deep, folks. He's a Bleach nerd. How'd you feel? How'd you vote, Jackie?
Adrealm.
Oh, you voted for Andrelm. Okay. What about you, Morgan?
Camo 988.
Camo 988 for me as well. 3 of 1. All right. Grima with the African American hairstyle versus Brahim Draws. Whyt, how did you vote?
Brahim.
How'd you vote, Jackie?
Brahim.
How'd you vote, Morgan?
Brahim Draws.
Brahim Draws for me as well. Clean sweep. Tough one, or the original Amani versus Ovo the artist. How'd you vote, Whyt?
I went the original Imani.
How'd you vote, Jackie?
Original Money.
How'd you vote, Morgan?
Original Amani.
I was Ovo the artist. Wow. Okay, so 1 for Ovo the artist, 3 for original Amani. Everyone went for Sekeyume Kanobo, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Last matchup in this group, tough one. Happy Go Sketchy versus Dordan Draws. How did you vote, Whyt?
Dordan Draws.
How did you vote, Jackie?
Dordan Draws.
How did you vote, Morgan?
Dordan Draws.
Dordan Draws for me as well. Clean sweep. All right. Final group. Teen Saigami. Impy OJ versus Scribbling Joe. How did you vote, Whyt?
Impy.
How did you vote, Jackie?
Impy.
How did you vote, Morgan?
Impy.
Impy for me as well. Clean sweep. Next up, we have Red Zen Designs versus Shanna Chups. How'd you vote, Whyt?
Shanna Chups.
How'd you vote, Jackie?
Shanna.
How'd you vote, Morgan?
Shanna Chups.
Shanna Chups for me as well. 4 for Shanna Chups. Love that name. Call Me Naka versus Ugly Artist Jibs. How did you vote, Whyt?
Oh my gosh, it was tough. Call me Naka.
How'd you vote, Jackie?
Call me Naka.
How'd you vote, Morgan?
Call me Naka.
Call Me Naka for me as well. This was tough. Ugly Artist Jibs, aside from having one of the cooler names, I different art style, but I did like what they were doing a lot. Corez art, everyone agrees Corez art?
Yep.
C.
All right, Gary Lytle versus Genjex. Whyt, how'd you vote?
Gary Lytle.
Jackie, how'd you guess? How'd you vote?
Gary.
Morgan?
Ginjax.
Did you really?
Yep.
You broke for everybody. Gary Lytle. 3 for Gary Lytle. All right, next up, Flabbergaster versus Cyanex Leon. Whyt, how'd you vote?
Flabbergast.
Okay. Jackie, how'd you vote?
Flabbergaster.
How'd you vote, Morgan?
Flibbergerster.
I was only one for Cyanexion. Okay. Cyanexion for me. So 1 for Cyanexion. Next up, Devil May Create Art versus Nat Q Art. This is a tough one. How'd you vote, Whyt?
Oh, this one was tough. Oh, gosh. I went Devil May Create.
Wow. Okay. They did all that talking about Nat Q Art.
No, it was. I think what threw me off was, just the body proportion, but everything else was really good.
Yeah. All right. Jackie, where'd you vote?
Nath Q.
Where'd you vote, Morgan?
Nath Q Art.
Yeah, Nat Q Art for me as well. I agree on the body proportions, Whyt, but he's a cyborg, so I just assume there's stuff we're not seeing because it's not there. But yeah, Nat Q for me. Last group here: 3THN versus ASHESK. Whyt, how'd you vote?
Ash.
Okay, Jackie, how'd you vote?
Ashek.
Okay, Morgan, how'd you vote?
3THN.
3THN for me as well. All right, so folks, that is it. Now, what does this mean? Right now, it means nothing. It means that some people got 15 points and some people didn't. Some people got a clean sweep. Some people, got a brokered vote amongst the 4 of us. Now, here's what matters. There are less than 2 hours to go to get people to go to our webpage, www.saturday-am.com/madness. In fact, we scroll all the way to the top of the thing here and you hit the homepage button and you go to our website. You see that March Art Madness up there? It's right there. It's not going anywhere. So you don't have to do much. Just go to our webpage, www.saturday-am.com, and then click the March Art Madness button. Or you can just type in www.saturday-am.com / we'll put a little / here. Can I do that here? There we go. / and then madness. You see how I type that in there? And then there it is right there. It just comes right up. So you go there, and then underneath each team, there is a vote button. You can't miss it. It's giant. It's purple. It's ugly. You can't miss it. We made it that way, so you would be like, oh, God, this is ugly. And then you'll know to press it. You press it. It'll take you to the page to vote, so you can't miss it. So here we are, Team Apple Black. You're scrolling to the bottom here. See that big thing? Click here to vote. You click it. It opens up a second window where you then can go in and vote. It's very straightforward. Now, you will have to vote for each team separately, so please make sure you do that. But you got 2 hours to go. Please go, make your vote known, and please keep something in mind, folks. Our votes obviously are weighted. We also have other team votes that come from other members of our company. Those votes are weighted as well. But the vast majority of people who come and vote are going to come and vote, and they're going to come and vote from all over the world, from your country, from your friends, your family, so on and so forth. And when they come in to vote, they'll just place in their vote, and those will have their own value to it. Now, some people got their work in late. Some people mislabeled their work, and therefore, or some people drew the wrong thing. All of those things will count against those people. So we may have all voted for someone who is suffering from loss of points because they got their work in late, they mislabeled it, or they drew the wrong thing. So at some point, those losses may affect their final vote tally, even if they did really well with the fans or did okay with us, or vice versa. So bottom line, if you're an artist in the tournament, please make sure that you always follow the rules, submit your work on time or early so you can get the bonus, and make sure you follow the directions as necessary regarding how you submit and how you share your content so that we can find it. Otherwise than that, this has been round one. On behalf of Spectrum Noir, Clip Studio Paint, Jackie Rindy, her husband Jonathan, Whyt Manga, Morgan Walker, and everyone associated with Saturday AM, Saturday PM, and our upcoming LGBT magazine, Saturday Brunch. We want to thank you guys for taking your Sunday evening to spend with us. Please enjoy this artwork, share it with friends and family, and don't forget, you've got another couple of days to vote for and appreciate the artwork for our Alternates tournament, which is happening at www.animemotivation.com. Thank you all so much for supporting March Art Madness. We really, really love doing this. We hope you guys will continue to support us. You can do so by downloading our app on the Android or Apple App Store. It is called Saturday AM Global Comics. You can't miss it. It's got 5-star reviews. Leave us a nice review as well, folks. We appreciate it. Otherwise, we're about to head out. Whyt, you have any last words you want to say to folks?
So I'm them out.
Any last words, Morgan?
Congrats to everyone who participated this round. Always happy to see veterans from previous years come back. That means a lot to us who host the show, but also excited about a lot of the newcomers this year. Looking forward to round two.
All right, Jackie, any last words?
I want to say that I really loved everyone's artwork, and I can't wait to see what you guys make for the next round with all of these new themes that we have in mind.
And to that point, the winners of the round and the new themes will be up on our website at the Madness page tomorrow between roughly around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. So for those of you who participated and looking to see where you place, please give us some time. It'll be available around midday tomorrow at the same web address I just showed you, www.saturday-am.com/madness. Again, on behalf of everyone here, thank you all so much for supporting us, and we will see you very, very soon. Take care.